Yo, it's your boy Ryan, Northwest Sports Fanatics, back at you with a new video. Today is Monday, May 12th, 2025, with your boy Ryan and the Northwest Sports Fanatics. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. Smash that like button either now or on your way out. Donate to your boy if you can. Cash App $ ORION NWSF or the YouTube Super Chat right here. We got some MLB action this Monday evening. The New York Yankees versus the Seattle Mariners. First pitch is going to be here in just a couple minutes. So let's cue up the music, take a look at the thumb, and let's get settled in for some Monday night baseball. Let's get it. And on the thumb, on the left, the superstar stud, the best player in the game right now today, Aaron Judge. And on the right, you know who it is, Julio Rodriguez. Now let's get into the starting lineups here first for the New York Yankees. Leading off for the Yankees in center field, Trent Grisham. Batting second, playing right field, Aaron Judge. Batting third, DHing for New York, Ben Rice. Batting cleanup, batting fourth, first baseman, Paul Goldschmidt. Batting fifth, left fielder, Cody Bellinger. Batting sixth, playing shortstop, Anthony Volpe. Batting seventh, catching today for New York, Austin Wells. Batting eighth, playing third base for New York, Oswaldo Cabrera. And batting ninth, playing second base, Oswald Peraza. And on the mound for the Yankees with an 0-1 record, an ERA of 4.79, it is Clark Schmidt. And now let's get into the starting lineups for your Seattle Mariners. Leading off for the Mariners at shortstop, J.P. Crawford. Batting second, DHing, Jorge Polanco. Batting third, playing center field, Julio Rodriguez. Batting cleanup, batting fourth, catching for Seattle, big dumper, Cal Raleigh. Batting fifth, playing left field, Randy Arozarena. Batting sixth, playing first base, Rowdy Tellez. Batting seventh, playing right field, Leody Taveras. Batting eighth, second baseman, Dylan Moore. And batting ninth, playing third base, Ben Williamson. And on the mound for the Mariners with a 1-1 record, ERA of 5.70, Emerson Hancock. Let's go, baby. And again, after, being swept by the Blue Jays, that was a rude awakening. And that's the first time that we've been swept, since that giant series on the road where Victor Robles got hurt and ran into the pole and into the net. GG, Lauren, again, we won 2 out of 3 in Toronto. You guys beat our ass 3 games there in Seattle. And then that last game yesterday was incredibly embarrassing, to have it already be over halfway through the game. But hopefully, they can, bring their A game. And this is actually my favorite series with the Mariners that's not within the division. I love playing the Astros. I love playing the Rangers. I love playing the Athletics and the Angels in the division, in the AL West. But if I had to choose one American League opponent that I love the most to go against, it's definitely against the New York Yankees, 100%. Just because, they are known for greatness, and it's definitely going to be tough, in this series, but hopefully we can get it done. All right, first pitch is low and away. 1-0 count with that sinker. 1-0 pitch, takes a strike looking right down the pipe. 1 ball and 1 strike from Hancock right out of the gates. Let's go, baby. Lauren in the building. What's good, brother? One pitch, fouled off. 1 ball and 2 strikes to Trent Grisham. 1-2 pitch, 4-seam fastball, high and away. 2 balls and 2 strikes from Hancock to Trent Grisham. 2-2 pitch, And Gresham strikes out swinging. There we go. Emerson right out of the gates, getting a K. And again, I thought Logan Evans pitched pretty good in his last start. He's good at home and a little shaky on the road. But maybe they need to put Bryce Miller on the injured list because right now Hancock and Evans are better than Bryce Miller. Trent Grisham striking out, 1 away. Good start. Next up, right fielder, the player that's playing the best in Major League Baseball today, Aaron Judge. First pitch, takes a strike swinging on a slider, low and away, 0-1 count. Let's go, baby. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. We'll be shooting for 20 likes within the first hour, 30 to 50 overall, and obviously 100 in the donos on every single stream. And once we get to 20, we'll hit that algorithm, and that'll give us more recommendations in this series. 1-1 pitch, and popped up, and caught in right field. There we go. Leody Taveras, 2 away. Always good when you can limit the damage Aaron Judge is doing, especially if he's batting over 400. He's having an MVP year for sure, like that 62 home run season we saw in 2022 in Julio's rookie year. Next up, DHing Ben Rice. Let's go, Emerson. Hold it down, baby. But good start so far with a strikeout and a pop-out, obviously with Aaron Judge. And battling the sun, no problem for Leody Taveras. Aaron Judge batting .406. Incredible. First pitch from Hancock to Rice. Takes a strike looking on the sinker. Right 95 miles an hour on the line. 0-1 count. 0-1 pitch. Low and away. Fouled off with the changeup. 87 miles an hour behind in the count now. 0-2. 0-2 pitch. Low and away. 1 ball and 2 strikes from Hancock to Rice. Let's go, baby. 1-2 pitch. Tries to jam the hitter at the hips with the sinker. 2 balls and 2 strikes from Hancock to Rice. And again, we need to be able to limit the damage with a team this good in New York. We have to make sure, to our best ability, if we can hold them to 4 runs or less. And obviously we want starting pitching to be great, and we need the starting pitching to go 6 innings. And Rice strikes out swinging. Wow. Here we go. Emerson Hancock. Again, looking like a first rounder like we drafted a couple years ago. A K on Grisham, a K on Rice, and then a pop out to Judge. Great start for the Mariners. Now let's see if the bats can come alive. They definitely disappeared in that Toronto series. You got to give Toronto credit. Their pitching was good. Their defense was good. And the bats were just a little cold for the Seattle Mariners for the first time. We were trying to win our 10th consecutive series. But again, after you dropped that first game, it was pretty bad, 6-3. The second game we should have won with Logan Evans, but Vargas fucked it up in the pen. We lost 6-3. And then obviously the last matchup was incredibly embarrassing, especially when you get down like 9-1 late in the matchup. It was already over by the 5th or the 6th. Leading off for the Mariners, shortstop J.P. Crawford. Let's go, Crawdaddy. We're going to need you. You've been hot in the last month. Let's keep it going. Batting second, a guy that's been cooling off a little bit, but has consistently been hitting 350 to 450, DHing Jorge Polanco. We need a strong Polo today. And batting third, center fielder Julio Rodriguez. And Julio actually has been doing very well in May. A very off March and April, but he's getting a really good contact rate, hard hit rate. Again, homers aren't going to be something that you're going to get, compared to some of the other top dogs like Aaron Judge. But again, right now, Julio, sitting around that, 5-6, homer range. And again, hopefully he'll be able to get one in this particular series, even though I know it will be tough. Let's go, baby. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. And I apologize for being a little bit late. I try to usually set up about 5 or 10 minutes prior to the game starting, but I was actually making thumbnails for today's stream, tomorrow's, and for Wednesday. So that took me a little bit extra time, but at least I got it, right when we got started, obviously on first pitch. Let's go. All right. We have 7 likes. We need 3 more to get to 10, 13 to be able to hit the number, to hit the algorithm. Let's go, baby. First pitch from Schmidt to J.P. Crawford. Takes a strike looking with a sinker. high and away, 0-1 count, 92 miles an hour. And on the mound for the Yankees with an 0-1 record, ERA of 4.79, Clark Schmidt. So obviously, this is not Garrett Cole, but again, we understand that this is going to be a tough series, and we definitely need to rebound from what we had happen to us, obviously, against the Toronto Blue Jays. Got to give them credit. They kicked our ass, and we won 2 out of 3 in Toronto. They won 3 out of 3 in Seattle, and we'll see what happens when we face them the next time around. Pitch is high and away with a cutter. 1 ball and 1 strike from Schmidt to Crawford. Let's go, JP. 1-1 pitch, takes a strike looking. 1 ball and 2 strikes from Schmidt to JP. Lauren in the building, what's good? Yes, sir, Trident's up. Captain in the building, what's good? Yeah, I like that. Great start for Emerson Hancock. Yeah, definitely got to jump on them early because we know how good they are. Megan with a tenor, good to see you. No worries. You know, a lot of people have Aaron Judge and a few others. And JP with the 1-2 pitch strikes out looking. 1 away. I mean, I'm a big fan of Aaron Judge. I'm a Mariner fan. You know, again, anytime you end up getting memorabilia from the best player in baseball not named Shohei Ohtani, it definitely brings the fandom up a level. Next up, for the Mariners, DHing Jorge Polanco. His bat has cooled off a little bit, especially in that Toronto series. Hopefully that will heat up again. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. Stacks on stacks, racks on racks with a little Cactus Jack bang bang. Megan's going for Judge and the Yankees, and that's totally fine. Appreciate you. Hope you've been good in these last few days that we haven't seen you. Reflect coming in with a 20. Appreciate you. She said, go M's all the way. Stacks on stacks, racks on racks with a little Cactus Jack bang bang. Let's go. Go M's. We need it, especially after losing 3 to the Blue Jays. Takes a strike looking with a cutter on the line. 0-1 count from Schmidt to Polo. 0-1 pitch. Inside, tried to jam the hitter inside with the cutter. 94 miles an hour. 1 ball and 1 strike from Schmidt to Polo. 1-1 pitch. Takes a strike looking with that knuckle curve in the zone, low and away. 1 ball and 2 strike from Schmidt to Polo. Captain with a fiber. Double E in the building. What's good? Stacks on stacks, racks on racks, little Cactus Jack, bang, bang. Hope everyone had a good Mother's Day over the weekend. And 1-2, Polo strikes out swinging. Tough start here early on. JP goes down, striking out. Polo goes down, striking out. Next up, a guy that has been hot in May, center fielder Julio Rodriguez. Trident's up, baby. We're going to need you desperately in this series, as well as the rest of the year moving forward. Let's go, Julio. First pitch, low and away with a cutter, 94 miles an hour. Doesn't get baited on that one. 1-0 count. Appreciate you. $5 holla. Stacks on stacks, racks on racks with little Cactus Jack. Bang, bang. Let's go, M's. Trident's up. Appreciate you. One 0 pitch. Fouls it off right down the pipe with the cutter. 1 ball and 1 strike with 2 outs and nobody on. Schmidt on the mound. Julio in the box. Oh, it's always good when you actually get to spend time with Ollie there, so glad to hear that. 1-1 pitch. Low and away. Gets baited there. Big swing and a miss on that sweeper. 1 ball and 2 strikes with 2 outs and nobody on for Julio Rodriguez. I'll try to squeeze in photos for Megan, Reflect, and Captain as soon as I can. Let me know what you guys are looking for, if anything, at this time, and I get you. If you want something a little bit later on or at the end of the stream, like typically Reflect does, or when they're it's a little bit slower, as far as like in between innings, I can do that. You just let me know, and I got you. And back. See ya. There we go. That's what I'm talking about, especially if JP Crawford is going to be a little off, at his first at bat. Same thing with Polo. Trident's up. Let's go. Solo dinger, 433 feet to center by Julio Rodriguez. 1-0 Mariners. Let's go, baby. Trident's up. We love that. And again, we can get Julio going early. Oh, baby. Let's go. Great start. Emerson Hancock with 2 Ks early on. Judge popping out, but Judge is going to be Judge and do crazy things. He's batting over 400. He'll probably get the MVP this year if he doesn't get hurt. But great start. Let's see if Cal can back it up as well. Trident's up. First pitch, high and inside with the cutter, 93 miles an hour from Schmidt. 0-1 count. Let's go. Way to bring that electricity right out of the gates, Julio Rodriguez, my man. You've been great in May. And again, we're going to criticize players when they need to be criticized, but again, when players are doing well, we have to make sure we're giving them love and the credit. And Julio is definitely this type of player. Starts slow, and then typically gets hot in May, June, July, August as the warmer weather starts to come about. 0-1 pitch, fouled off again with the knuckle curve low and away by Schmidt. Trying to bait Cal on that pitch right on the line. Behind in the count now 0-2. Bottom of the first, nobody on. 1-0 Mariners. Hancock with 2 Ks in the beginning of his outing, and Julio with a solo jack, 433 to center, baby. 0-2 pitch, knuckle curve, low and at the knees. Tries to jam the hitter there. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Big dumper, Cal Raleigh. Let's go, Cal. Trident's up, baby. Great start, especially after the lack of homers and production in that Blue Jay series. Hope everyone is having a fantastic Monday. And down goes Cal. But I don't know if we were really anticipating Cal getting something there, but we'll take the early lead. Julio, baby. Let's go. And I got a chance to take Paisley to Petco today, based off, all your guys' support, over the last week or so. So I was able to, use some of the, funds that I got, for the birthday. I don't really spend money on myself. If I get, any type of gifts from friends or from family, and it ends up being any spare cash, it typically goes to just paying the internet bill, the streaming fee, or it goes towards Paisley. So she got a nice big, extra large purple rope, and those don't come cheap. They're close to $20, but I know it'll last a few months. And then got her a new kind of squish green apple. It's got kind of holes on the side so you can put treats in it, even though I typically don't. And usually those will, run $10 to $13. So, it's nice to be able to pamper your pup, especially, when dogs need to be able to have, different types of feelings. Whether it be a rope or a bone or a ball, they need to have that different type of texture. And obviously being able to keep your pup happy, obviously will keep your human happy as well as myself. All right, let's see who's up next here for the Yankees in the top of the second. And we got Emerson Hancock on the mound. And next up for the Yankees, coming over from the Cardinals and playing well, first baseman Paul Goldschmidt. Batting second, the former Dodger and Cub, left fielder Cody Bellinger. And batting third, shortstop Anthony Volpe. And Cal popped out to third on that last out. But again, hopefully he'll be able to get back to being his former self and get on the board with those home runs. Let's go. So Soto isn't on the Yankees anymore. He's on the Mets. So if you still want me to bring up old Juan Soto photos, I can do that. But I can give you some Giancarlo Stanton and some Aaron Judge. Captain, let me know what you want as well, and I got you. Giancarlo battling injuries, though. It seems like that's kind of the story with him every single year. And, hopefully you'll be able to see him later in the season and whatnot. But, sometimes, those bigger guys, typically end up having, injuries a little bit more sustained than maybe, some of the individuals that might be not built like a brick house. In play, on a 0-2 pitch, and Goldschmidt grounds out to first, 1 away. Yeah, I don't know if they're going to send him to AAA, but I think he needs to hit the injured list because, again, if that back isn't right and he hasn't been right all year, I think we have a better chance to win with Hancock and Evans than with Bryce as of right now. No, normally Bryce is better, but if we're talking about 2025 Bryce, he's the worst pitcher on the staff right now as far as starters. So we'll see where it goes, but again, I don't know if they would actually send him to AAA. Maybe putting him on the injured list would be more realistic. And Hancock just walked Bellinger. 4 balls to 1 strike at that at-bat. Next up is shortstop Anthony Volpe. Top of the second, runner at first with 1 out, 1-0 Mariners with a Julio Rodriguez solo jack. 4:33 to center in the first inning. And we'll see what Anthony Volpe has. Sprinkle in a few of these photos here for Megan while we're doing this, and I can get you captain as well and reflected anytime. Little Soto from old school last year, little Judge here, little Judge there, and then let me delete some more of these photos as we got Volpe in the box. 1 ball and 1 strike to Anthony Volpe. Hit you with the Giancarlo. Appreciate you. Pitch is high and away with a 4-seam fastball. 2 balls and 1 strike from Hancock to Anthony Volpe. 236 average, 5 homers, 22 ribbies with an OPS of 730 plus here in 2025. I mean, we're going to have Gilbert and Kirby back within the next couple weeks. So, it would be Gilbert, Kirby, Wu, Castillo, and then I probably would go Hancock, and then Evans, and then Miller, in that order. Even though Logan Evans has been good at home, he had a rough start on the road, but I still think Logan Evans, at this point, I trust him more than I do with Bryce right now. Bryce is the most untrustworthy right now because of the back injury, and on top of maybe his confidence has been shaken too. Pitch is high and inside, and that is not good. Another walk from Hancock to Volpe. Volpe with 2 Ks in the first inning, now 2 walks in the second. Got to settle down, Hancock. Come on now. And Volpe making his way to first. Next up, catcher Austin Wells, and we need a double play or something of that nature here real quick. Come on, Emerson. All right, Captain, I got you. Oh, you finally got a chance to try on the cosplay. Nice. Heck yeah. Top of the second, runners at first and second with 1 out. Austin Wells, 214 average, 7 homers, 24 ribbies in 2025. As Cal Raleigh has to have a mound visit with Hancock, make sure they're on the same page. First pitch from Emerson, about 10 feet off the plate with the changeup. 1-0 count from Emerson Hancock to Austin Wells. One-0 pitch, fouled off right down the middle with the changeup 87 miles an hour. 1 ball and 1 strike from Hancock to Wells. Come on, Emerson. You got to pitch like you did in that first inning, baby. Let's go. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 20 within the first hour, 30 to 50 overall, and obviously 100 in the donos on every single stream. Captain, if you could keep track of the likes and the donos, that would be greatly appreciated. MDDR in the building. What's good? But right now, Bryce is a liability. And again, Hancock is going to be, 50-50. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. Same thing with Logan Evans. It seems like he's good at home, but, got roughed up on the road. We still need to see a little bit more out of Logan Evans before we can say that, yeah, he is better than Hancock 100% or not. But Bryce right now, like I said, with the injury and his confidence, like he needs to be able to maybe go to the injured list after Kirby and Gilbert come back. Because, like I said, it just feels like he's hurting the team. And, it's rough when you have three guys that you can't really count on game in and game out, and Hancock, Evans, as well as Bryce Miller. And let's be real, even Brian Wu and Luis Castillo at times have looked shaky early on in games. But you could also say that for Logan Gilbert, before he got hurt. I don't know what it is about our pitching this year, but sometimes it takes a couple innings for them to settle down. And we've been walking a lot of guys, not really hitting a lot of guys, but just been a little wild with control, even with our best players, in our starting rotation. In play, and Wells flies out to Big Ben Williamson. There we go. 2 away. I like that, baby. Next up, third baseman, Oswaldo Cabrera. So they have an Oswaldo, and then the next guy up, Oswald. You got an O and a non-O. But this one is Oswald Peraza, and then you got Oswaldo Cabrera. First pitch to Oswaldo Cabrera. Low and away, or low and inside at the knees. Tries to jam him with the changeup. 86 miles an hour, 1-0 count from Hancock to Cabrera. Try dance up. Let's go, Evs. Appreciate you, Captain. And in play, and grounds out to first. There we go. And again, it's okay, if you walk a couple guys or you give up a couple base hits, as long as nobody comes home or you give up one, but when you give up more than one in an inning, and the bats on the opposite side for the Mariners are maybe cold, it gets to be challenging as the game progresses unless the bats warm up. Now let's get some Julio photos here for Captain. Great start for J-Rod, and hopefully we get others to participate besides just Julio. Sometimes when Julio has a great game, for whatever reason, some of the others don't step up. I don't know really why that is, and maybe it'll be a little bit different, in this particular series and in this game against the Yankees, but I don't know why that typically happens. Now, when you get other guys that get going first, then Julio will join the party sometimes. But when Julio is the guy to get the party started, I've noticed that typically other guys seem to kind of match, that type of energy and swagger. I don't know why, but hopefully that's not the case because, again, we got our ass kicked by Toronto and got swept, just like Harry Potter with the brooms. And, again, that didn't feel good whatsoever. So I'm really hoping that, we can turn it around. And, again, if we can win 2 out of 3 against the Yankees, that would definitely get us back on track. And you also got to give the Blue Jays credit, even though they're hovering around 500, you never know with guys like Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Bo Bichette, and George Springer. They can turn it on with a flip of a switch, right? And again, they definitely beat us down, and hopefully we'll be able to get revenge later in the year. Go, baby. Bottom of the second. Schmidt on the mound. Next up is Randy Arozarena. There's a nice one of Julio there. Very likable, Julio Rodriguez. Next up, in the box, left fielder Randy Arozarena. Takes a strike swinging on that first pitch. 0-1 count. 0-1 pitch. Takes a strike looking with a sinker low and away. Behind in the count 0-2 from Schmidt to Randy Arozarena. 0-2 pitch, about 20 feet off the plate, low and away with that sweeper, 84 miles an hour by Schmidt. 1 ball and 2 strikes from Schmidt to Randy. And Randy, definitely a very streaky player. Again, and hopefully he'll hustle in the outfield. There was a couple plays in that Toronto series where he was kind of lollygagging to the baseball and left. And even if you feel like the guy is gonna get a double, I would like to see you hustle, and grab the baseball and throw it in quickly instead of just trying to jog and lollygag and act like it's not a big deal. And sometimes Randy will do that running to first, and just in general with his at bats. I don't know if it was acceptable, with the Tampa Bay Rays, but here in Seattle, that shit doesn't fly. And we want to be able to see you run hard to first, even if it looks like it's going to be out 90%, run hard. You never know if the throw will be off and you'll be safe. And you never know, if you run hard on a defensive play into left field where you may actually throw the guy out at second when he's trying to, go for a double rather than a single. And he's got a pretty strong arm. It's just, I want to see the effort. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Pitches inside, tries to jam the hitter there. Count now full. 3 balls and 2 strikes from Clark Schmidt to Randy Arozarena. Oh, yeah. Like I said, I watch everything there, and Schmidt walks Randy. Good eye by Randy. But it's not just Cole Young. Harry Ford is doing pretty good. Cole Young, Tyler Locklear, and then we still got some of those other guys, Lazaro Montez and Felman Celestin, and a few of the Johnny Farmelo. We got out, even though he's coming off the injury. Like, we got a lot of guys. Even Durangelo is carrying it up in the farm, pitching left and pitching right. So eventually we'll get the right combination of guys, but I'm not sure who will be up next because all the guys that we seem to be bringing up, even the top 5 or 6 guys that are in the farm, they're kind of the others. But even those guys have panned out, like Ben Williamson. So it's very exciting to see where it will go. Next up is Rowdy Tellez. First pitch to Rowdy Tellez from Schmidt. On the line with the cutter. Takes a strike looking, 0-1 count. Schmidt on the mound, Rowdy Tellez in the box. 0-1 pitch. Low and at the knees with the knuckle curve. 1 ball, 1 strike from Schmidt to Tellez. We're in the bottom of the second. Runner at first, Randy Arozarena with the walk. Julio Rodriguez with a solo jack, 433 to center to get us off the board early against Clark Schmidt, which is great. We didn't really hit a whole lot of home runs, and we ended up scoring, 3, 3, and 1. Not acceptable, if you're a Seattle Mariner fan, especially yesterday's game on Mother's Day. That was really fucking embarrassing on how bad, that game ended up, and getting absolutely blasted 9-1. So hopefully we don't have games like that after about a month where we were averaging 6 to 10 runs, almost every game, and 6 runs a game for a month, and then we kind of hit the wall. 1 ball and 1 strike, fouls it off, tries to jam the hitter there, inside at the knees. 1 ball and 2 strikes from Schmidt to Tellez. But I was really hoping that we were going to get that 10th consecutive series. But again, 9 is the most that we've had since 2001 in Ichiro's rookie year, where we had 15 consecutive wins in series. So again, getting 9 is huge. And again, this is the best team that we've had in 2025 since the 2001 team. So best Mariner team in 24 years. And we are going to go to the playoffs, and we should have a very good chance of winning the division. And who knows, ALDS, ALCS, World Series, it could be the year. You never know. Especially if we get Logan Gilbert, George Kirby, Victor Robles, and a few of those other guys back. Luke Rayling. Obviously we're going to have so many players and not enough positions, but hopefully we get more Leo Rivas as well. Haven't been playing him nearly as enough. Pitch fouled off, tried to jam him at the knees. 1 ball and 2 strikes from Schmidt to Tellez. Come on, Rowdy. And right when Rowdy looked like he was maybe going to get sent down to AAA for maybe Tyler Locklear, he started hitting those homers in Toronto, solo jack, grand salami during WrestleMania weekend, and he's actually been hitting homers here and there and getting some pretty clutch RBIs and base knocks and singles. So I'm glad that Rowdy has been able to kind of turn it around, because at one point his batting average was like .50, kind of sitting where like Donovan Solano was. So it's nice to see him getting better as the season is going on. Pitch is high and away. Fouled off with that cutter. 2 balls and 2 strikes from Schmidt to Tellez. But really, like I said, we know that our bullpen is shaky. I don't really have any confidence besides guys like Brash and Spire, and even Spire's been getting fucked up lately. Definitely trust Munoz. He's the best closer in baseball, so we have confidence in him. But as far as the others, Bazardo and Vargas, it's really hit or miss with those guys. Colin Snyder, I just really don't trust those guys. But again, I would like to be able to see Dan, if you're going to pitch a guy 2 innings, why not let Gabe pitch 2? I understand why you're not doing it with Brash yet because he's coming off Tommy John. But if Gabe has the opportunity to get out of an inning with like 5 pitches, let him go another inning instead of going to Vargas for like 3 and then him giving up 5-6 runs and then we lose. It just doesn't make any sense. He goes with those other guys way too long, and then the guys that we should be going 2 innings, he only goes 1. And then also we need to be playing Leo Rivas more. To me, he should be starting every game. And I know Dylan Moore, his bat has been good. His batting average has been around 280 to 300. He hit a homer yesterday. But again, Leo Rivas is fast. He's got a good baseball IQ as Tellez gets walked and Randy goes to second. Good baseball IQ from Leo Rivas. He's got good speed on the bags. He's a good defender. He just gives you everything that you need. And I get it. Like the only position that you probably would put him at is second. But again, to give it to Dylan, he was hot early in the season and then he kind of cooled off. I think in that cool-off period, you should have went to Leo and gave him a fair chance to be able to help the team win. And they decided to keep sticking with Dylan, and it hurt us. And again, it's like, if Ben Williamson is going to be the third baseman and Leody Taveras is going to be in right until Victor Robles comes back, we know Cal is the catcher, Randy's in left, Julio's in center, Jorge is the DH, JP's the shortstop. Most of the positions are pretty much, set in stone. Rowdy Tellez or Donovan Solano at first. We don't really like Donovan Solano there, but, it is what it is. But again, Leo Rivas could play shortstop, second base, third base. But again, second base is probably where he's best. And I just want them to, and I don't really like splitting time, with guys, but in this particular circumstance, Dylan Moore should be playing every day, but so should Leo Rivas. And again, for Leo to barely be used, and every once in like 3 or 4 games, you'll see him as like a pinch runner, and that's good and dandy and all, but he can help you by bunting and, playing defense and getting on base and stealing bags. And if you've noticed, when we started to go on our losing streak, we didn't get hit by pitches. We didn't get walked. We weren't bunting. We weren't stealing bags, and we need to get back to that, and obviously getting hit by pitches and getting walked, that's up to the pitcher on the other side, but you can manufacture offense by bunting and being aggressive on the bags. And again, I feel like we need to get back to where we were when we were on our 9-game winning streak in that series win. Bottom of the second, runners at first and second, throw to second for Randy. And Randy anticipates like he's going to go, but doesn't. Randy at first at second with a walk. Rowdy Tellez with a walk at first. And next up, Leody Taveras. Leody, sack bunt to the pitcher. Tellez to second. And Randy Arozarena to third. There we go. And just like I'm talking about bunting, there it is. And again, we move the guys over. There you go, Leody. Even though you know that you can get singles and you can probably get an RBI, I like the decision right there. And he runs hard to first, almost ends up being safe. Great job, Leody. And I was a little skeptical of Leody Taveras coming over, from the Rangers because, he was their 9-hole hitter and he really wasn't that great. He was kind of, okay, like you just didn't really know what he was going to do for the Mariners, but he actually has been, I wouldn't say as impactful as Victor Robles last year, but he has actually been pretty good, and I would rather have him out there than Luke Raley and Wright or anyone else. So nice job by Leody. Next up is Dylan Moore. First pitch inside, fouled off with the sinker, 0-1 count. 0-1 pitch, sweeper, low and away, called ball, should have been strike. 1 ball and 1 strike from Schmidt to Demo. And again, Clark Schmidt, 0-1 record, ERA of 4.79, not anything that we should be really afraid of. 1-1 pitch, fouled off with the sweeper by Dylan Moore. 1 ball and 2 strikes with 1 out. Runners at second and third, and hopefully we'll be able to get an RBI here. I don't anticipate Dylan getting a homer, but if he did, that would be huge for us in this game to get the score to be 4-0. But I'll just take an RBI single, just get at least 1 more run with 2 outs to go. We don't need to be too greedy, and then if we end up getting 2, 3, 4, great, but sometimes you have to have those patience. You have to have the patience, in the box. But again, you can't have too many opportunities where you have two guys on or bases loaded and then you get nothing. And down goes Demo with the strike swinging with the cutter, 2 away. Hopefully we see Leo Rivas in the game at some point for Dylan Moore, like in the 7th inning. I would like to see Leo with 2 at-bats to help us out. Next up, a guy that has helped us out since we called him up from the Tacoma Rainiers, our AAA affiliate. Third baseman, should be our third baseman for the next 10 years, Ben Williamson. Let's go Big Ben. Great at defense, great hitter, good baseball IQ, very likable, and the best third baseman we've had since Eugenio Suarez. First pitch, takes a strike looking with the sweeper, 83 miles an hour from Clark Schmidt to Ben Williamson, 0-1 count. Bottom of the second, runners at second and third with 2 outs. And again, I want to see more bunting in the series. It'll help us. In play, and Williamson flied out to right, but at least we ended up getting 2 guys on, and hopefully that'll be a good sign for the 3rd inning and the 4th inning where we can get a little bit more. And again, at least that we attempted to bunt to move the guys over, and obviously we didn't get to catch in there, but the next time that might be the big inning where we get 1, 2, 3, or 4 runs. But at least we still have the 1-0 lead with that solo jack in the first by Julio Rodriguez. Let's see who's up next for the Yankees here in the top of the 3rd. 100% agreed. I would love to be able to see the M's in New York in the playoffs, even if that would be risky for us to lose against them. The Yankees are my favorite series for the Mariners in the American League that aren't in our division in the AL West. I love playing the Astros and the Rangers, the Athletics and the Angels, within the AL West. But if I had to choose like my favorite opponent, overall, maybe even more when we go against the Astros and Rangers because there's like blood there. I like going against the Yankees because it raises everyone's game. It's like when you go against the Yankees or the Dodgers, you can't half-ass anything. You have to bring it, no matter what year it is. And again, so you can't get too down on yourself. You have to literally, strategize to the best of your ability. You're going to have to play better than you were going to play against like the Angels or a team of that nature. You really got to up the bar, and and I think that will bring out the best, in the Mariners moving forward. Double E. I gotta look up one thing in the game here, and obviously, let's take a quick peek. Okay, and this is the reason why the Celtics keep losing. 18 for 48 from 3. So you went 15 for 60 in game 1. You lost. You went 10 for 40 in game 2. You lost, right? That's 25 for 100 in 3s, right? And again, if your identity is only shooting 3s, then you can't even do that. And then today, 18 for 48. That's the reason. It's bad coaching from Boston. If the Celtics would take less 3s and attack the paint, they would already be up 3-1 on the Knicks, even though I love, Jalen Brunson and Towns. I like what they got going over there in New York. But if you actually had a coach that had a fucking brain that said, hey, let's not shoot so many fucking 3s, then you would be up 3-1 right now, or at least it would be 2-2, But again, it's bad coaching, And again, that's where the NBA is going. Everyone thinks that they can be, a 3-point shooting team. Everyone, from a guard to a center. And yeah, Boston was one of the best 3-point shooting teams, in the regular season. No doubt about that. But again, if you're not shooting 40% or better and you're taking that many, you're fucked. And, they have themselves to blame. And Peraza strikes out swinging, 1 away. Down goes Oswald. Next up, back at the top of the order, center fielder Trent Grisham, 0 for 1 with a K. But that makes it a lot easier, I think, for OKC if they don't have to play Boston, because really that would be the team that, if they're on with shooting 3s, they're dangerous. But if you take too many and you're not making a good percentage, you're going to get exposed. And we'll see if we end up getting Knicks Pacers. But if we end up getting that, OKC will run through those teams and they'll win it all. So, Again, OKC obviously has the tougher outing because they got the Nuggets and the Joker, right? And Jamal Murray. If you get past that, and then obviously go in against the T-Wolves, Anthony Edwards is pretty good, but they should be able to take care of them. But if you get past the Nuggets and the T-Wolves, Knicks, Pacers, Celtics, you don't got any chance against OKC in a 7-game series, in my opinion. Top of the third with one out, Hancock on the mound, Grisham in the box. In play. Oh, my. Back. See ya. Grisham homers. Damn you, Trent. We're knotted up here at 1. Crush the fuck out of that baseball. Next up, right fielder Aaron Judge. 0 for 1 with a pop out to the right. And how did Julio miss that ball? Julio had it in his glove, and it popped out of his glove, and then it went over the wall. Terrible. Come on, Julio. Jesus. First pitch to Aaron Judge, blowing away with the slider, takes the strike swinging, 0-1 count. JT in the building, Smiley in the building, Britt in the building. But this isn't Julio. That shouldn't even have been a homer. The ball, look where the ball is. He jumps, right? And it's right there. That's on Julio. That wouldn't have even been a homer. But again, I'll give him credit. Grisham has been doing well, but that should have been an out for Julio. It's not like he had to climb the wall and jump up like Ichiro, like Spider-Man back in the day. I mean, that was a catchable ball that Julio normally gets, 9 times out of 10. Hit the glove in the wall, but that's a routine play that Julio normally makes. Takes a strike swinging. 1 ball and 2 strikes from Hancock to Judge. In play. And Aaron Judge doubles to left. Nice base knock there by Aaron. Best baseball player in 2025, batting .406, 14 home runs, 39 ribbies, OPS of over 1,200. He's insane. Next up, DHing Ben Rice. And hopefully we can get out of this inning. We already aren't going to be fully unscathed because obviously it's tied up 1-1, but we're going to have to score, 5 to 10 every game against the Yankees, more than likely. In play. And lined out to right to Leody Taveras, 2 away. Next up, first baseman Paul Goldschmidt. And Goldschmidt has had a rebirth in his career. Obviously wasn't a very good player at the end for the Cardinals. We're on a nice win streak right now. Anytime you can win 8 in a row, 9 in a row, and you're not even favored to win the division like the Cubs, it's always nice to see. In play and grounded out to the pitcher, throw to first, got him. But again, Goldschmidt, sometimes, you need to go to a new team, to be able to have a change of scenery after playing with, the same team for almost your whole career, and then being able to move on somewhere else. And anytime you go to a team that maybe has higher standards than St. Louis, in the Yankees, more pressure to be able to succeed, and you got better players around you. Glad that Paul didn't do anything there, and he grounded out to the pitcher. But Trent Grisham with that solo homer that probably should have been defended by Julio, but we'll see where it goes. We're knotted up at 1. Let's go to the bottom of the 3rd inning and see who's up next for the Mariners. But I'll give Trent love. That was a nice homer, even though Julio should have had that. Come on, J-Rod. We're used to that defense out there, baby. Next up for the Mariners, 0 for 1 with a K, shortstop J.P. Crawford. Batting second, 0 for 1 with a K, DHing Jorge Polanco. And batting third, 1 for 1 with a solo jack, Julio Rodriguez. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to that 20 number. And we did. So now we're at 25. 5 more to go to get to 30. And then I don't know where we're at on the donos, but Captain will update everyone there in the chat to see where we are at. First pitch to JP Crawford from Clark Schmidt. Sweeper, high and away, 1-0 count. Let's go, JP. And again, Clark Schmidt, 0-1 record with an ERA of 4.79. So definitely should have an opportunity to get, a few runs on a pitcher of this caliber. 1-0 pitch. Takes a strike looking, low and away with the cutter, 94 miles an hour. 1 ball and 1 strike from Schmidt to JP. Let's go, JP. 1-1 pitch. Takes a strike looking, outside of the zone. Should have been called ball, called strike. I don't know if this is what it's going to be like with this ump today, but hopefully they call it even both ways. 1 ball and 2 strikes with no outs and nobody on. Bottom of the third, we're knotted up at 1. And surprisingly, we got a homer by Julio, a homer by Trent Grisham. Both center fielders for respective teams of the Mariners and the Yankees, and hopefully we'll end up getting quite a few more. Sweeper, low and away. 2 balls and 2 strikes from Schmidt to Crawford. Well, you have to understand that, Hancock is going to be hit or miss. Same thing with Logan Evans, but at least it's better than having Bryce on there. We know Castillo and Lou are our best right now because Logan Gilbert and George Kirby are still hurt. Kirby's been looking pretty good for the Tacoma Rainiers. I think he's got 1 more start, and then we should see him back pretty shortly. Same thing with Logan Gilbert. He's been warming up and, doing some practice pitches with the team and whatnot. So once we can get those guys back, we just have to hope that they stay healthy. And then maybe send Bryce to the IL and then figure out who we want to keep on between Emerson Hancock or Logan Evans. So, and I assume they probably would go Hancock first because he's got more experience under his belt. But as the season goes on, Evans might end up being better than Hancock. We'll have to kind of wait and see and monitor. 3-2 pitch, in play. And JP grounds out to second, throw to first, 1 away. Next up, 0-for-1 with a K, DHing Jorge Polanco. He's been a little cold in the last, a few games, but not to say that he can't heat right back up again. In play. There we go, baby. That's what I'm talking about. He was cold. Not anymore. Back. See ya. Jorge Polanco homers to right, 364 feet, and that's exactly what we needed, baby. Especially against the Yankees, who disappeared in the Toronto Blue Jays series. Thank God that you finally woke up in the series against the Yankees, and sometimes that's what happens. It brings out the best in the players. Hey, it might have only gone to the front row, but we'll fucking take it. Nice job, Polo. Trident's up. Let's go, baby. Hell yeah. Solo dinger, Trident's up. Early in the matchup by Julio Rodriguez. Polo with a solo dinger as well. Let's see if Julio can make up for that home run by Grisham that popped out of his glove and hit the wall. First pitch, low and away with a strike swinging with the sweeper. 0-1 count. 2-1 Mariners. And again, we're already seeing more home runs now than we had pretty much in that whole Blue Jays series. It was pretty frustrating, to say the least. You lost 6-3 in game 1. Game 2, Logan Evans pitched well. We should have won that game. And then, him leaving when it's 3-2, Gabe made it 3-3. Vargas came in there and gave up 3 runs and fucked it all to hell. And then we lost 6-3 in back-to-back games. And then we got absolutely obliterated yesterday on Mother's Day. So, got to be able to get the bats going again. And I'm glad that we're doing it against Schmidt. Pitch is low and away by Schmidt to Julio. 1 ball and 2 strikes to Julio Rodriguez. Let's go, baby. Yeah. Judge right now is playing like the best player in baseball, which is typically going to be Judge or Ohtani. but when you're batting over 400 and you're number one in homers and ribbies and all the fucking categories with like OPS, like, you know, when you're over 1,000, you're at like 1,200, like 1.205. You know, it's like every single category. And that's all like a wild stat going back to last year. You know, in the, like, if you were going to go back to like 162 games up to this point, like 100 from last year, and then like wherever we're at now, you know, his numbers are literally insane. Like no one has put up the stat line that he has, you know, in that time period, and definitely feels like another MVP season like he had when he hit 62 home runs in 2022 in Julio's rookie year. 2-2 pitch, cutter fouled off, 2 balls and 2 strikes from Schmidt to Julio. 2-2 pitch, and got him. Julio strikes out swinging. He already got a homer for us at his first at-bat, but he goes down swinging at the second at-bat, 2 away. Nice punch out by Mark Schmidt. We're not going to be haters. We'll give him some love. Nice little punch out there on Julio. Next up, for Mariners, catcher 0 for 1, big dumper, Cal Raleigh, who's another guy that has been a little cold like Polo, and got the ability to you know, obviously take it as he goes for the first pitch, in play, flies out, and lines out to right. And hopefully Cal will be a little bit more patient. You know, it seems like he's been a little impatient, you know, lately. And again, he's been stuck at 12 homers, you know, for a while, and that was number 1 in MLB for, you know, quite a few weeks until Aaron Judge caught and passed him. So hopefully we can get Cal to work the count, and he typically does. You know, he's a guy that could get 2 10-pitch walks in a game, and he's done it already this season a couple times. But again, you know, we don't want Cal to start turning into Julio when you're just like swinging at the first pitch, second pitch, and then you're out in the first 2 pitches. Work the count, you know, be confident in the torpedo bat and your skill set. But again, we can't be bad, you know, with a homer by Julio, a homer by Polo, who's been cold lately. Now he's getting hot again, and we're up 2-1. Exciting game here early on. Let's go to the top of the 4th inning with the 2-1 Mariner lead. Let's go, baby. Next up for the Yankees, 0 for 0 with a base on ball, left fielder Cody Bellinger. Not doing as good, obviously, as his teammate Paul Goldschmidt, but Bellinger is always a guy that you have to worry about in the lineup at some point or another in the season. Batting second, shortstop Anthony Volpe, 0 for 0 with a base on ball, just like Bellinger. And batting third, 0 for 1, catcher Austin Wells. Stash from the past. He definitely looks like a 80s or 90s MLB player. Let's go Mariners. Daniel in the building. What's good? Miles in the building. Chris in the building. What's good? We're at 35, 65 to go. Let's go, baby. First pitch to Bellinger, 10 feet off the plate by Hancock, 1-0 count with that sinker, 90 miles an hour. Come on, Emerson. Win, baby. But it's a great sign, you know, if we're not able to get back-to-back hits and have that really big 1 to 4 run inning where we're just hitting it, you know, over and over and over. Single here, double here, stolen bag here, a bunt here, RBI here. If we're not able to do that, then what do you need to do? You got to hit homers. And typically when the Mariners hit 1 homer, it'll lead to another homer, which we're at right now. And sometimes when you end up getting 2 homers, that'll lead to 3 homers, and then maybe even a 4th homer as the game goes on. So maybe this is just the home run game, and maybe game number 2 and game number 3 will be more of like the base knock with an occasional homer, but we'll wait and see. But either way that you spin it, we're up 2-1, and I love it. Pitches outside with the changeup, 2 balls and 1 strike from Hancock to Bellinger. 2-1 pitch. Pitch fouled off with the sinker in the zone, high and away. 2 balls and 2 strikes from Hancock to Bellinger. Top of the 4th inning with nobody on, with no outs. Mariners up 2-1 on the Yankees. If you're just tuning in the bottom of the 1st, Julio Rodriguez, homer to center, 433 feet, 1-0 Mariners. Tridents up. Top of the third, Grisham homered in center where it popped out of Julio's glove, making it 1-1, 412 feet. And then in the bottom of the third, just a few minutes ago, Jorge Polanco, getting off that cold streak, homers to right in the first row. But we'll take it. 364 feet, 2-1 Mariners. There we go. Down goes Bellinger. See ya. Nice punch out there by Emerson Hancock. I like that. Keep it going, baby. Third K. Next up is Anthony Volpe. First pitch. 4 feet off the plate. 1-0 count. Hancock with 4 Ks. Schmidt with 4. That's good for Hancock, too. Right now, pacing for 7 or 8 Ks. And I think any fan will take that after, seeing, how Bryce Miller looked. 1-1 pitch. Slider fouled off. 1 ball and 2 strikes from Hancock to Volpe. Yeah, that's what everyone on social media, has been saying. The same thing happened when they traded Anthony Davis to the Lakers and the Pelicans got the first pick and got Zion. So obviously the Lakers are the number 1 market. And, there's a lot of conspiracy theories about shit being rigged in sports, NFL, and other things, right? But for the draft, I think that's like one thing that kind of does feel like legitimately rigged, Not that I thought that the Blazers were going to get the first pick, but it would have been badass to get Cooper Flagg. And that is a 4-pitch walk from Hancock to Volpe. And they only had like a 1.8% chance of getting the first pick, and they got it. So now they pair up Cooper Flagg with Kyrie and AD instead of having him go to a shitty team like the Wizards or like Blazers. So, Next up, 0-for-1, catcher Austin Wells. And obviously, him on the Blazers would have been nice. It would have been able to take us from being, a fringe playoff team to a playoff team for sure. But, you definitely, have to consider, especially when you don't get to physically see it. It just seems like, you're not going to be able to rig it on like the NFL side because it's based off like, record and whatnot. So when you see it on other sports, they kind of do it in a way where you can't really cheat. But with basketball, with the little lottery balls, we don't really know if that's like legit or not. Like, how do you know that there's a certain amount of lottery balls with that team's logo in it? Oh, they got 10, Dallas Maverick, logo ping pong balls. But in reality, maybe there was 30 in there, it's like, how do you really know? And you don't. So, but definitely, they're catering to the Mavericks, and they're like, hey, we're trade Luka to the Lakers. We'll take care of you in the draft. Wink, wink, right? Pitch fouled off. And got him. There we go. 5 Ks for Emerson Hancock. There we go, baby. One of the best outings that we've seen here from Emerson Hancock. Wheeling and dealing, bringing that electricity. Sit down, Austin Wells. Next up, third baseman Oswaldo Cabrera, 0-for-1, with a runner at first and 2 outs. Let's get the force out at second. Yeah, and again, if you end up going to like a small market, you're not going to stay there. Eventually the player will leave, once the, rookie deal is up, and then they'll end up going to a team like Dallas or the Lakers or, like a big market team. So, but if you want your sport to get better, you need to be able to bring superstars to the shit teams. So that way we have a reason to watch the Wizards, then rather than to avoid them, and that's where, when they do this collusion and this cheating, and they only because the NBA obviously is losing a lot of money, and ratings are way down obviously during the regular season. They'll always have a little bit of a spike during the playoffs. Same thing with the NHL. You'll get a little bit of a spike in the playoffs, but overall NBA ratings, if you're looking at compared to other sports, it's been declining pretty heavily, since 2010, around the Kobe Bryant time and, with the Spurs run and Kobe Bryant, like around that time period in the last 15 years, there's been a pretty dramatic decline, for games and people watching and going to them, during the regular season. And obviously in the playoffs, it means something. So more people are going to be interested in just, guys saying they have a hangnail and they're going to take off 10 games. And, it's a very soft league that don't hold their players accountable, and they don't have a lot of passion or pride for their sport. And that's why the NBA sucks. I mean, it's just not really that entertaining anymore, besides maybe a few series in the playoffs. And Hancock just walks Cabrera. But again, you're never going to be able to make the league better overall, top to bottom, if you're always, favoring the high market teams. Instead of actually getting like Cooper Flagg to go to a lower bottom end team, like the Wizards, to build up that program. It's just like in the NFL, like you want to be able to see, certain guys, like Travis Hunter going to the Jags. Now we have more of a reason to check up on the Jags because, Travis Hunter is there rather than him going somewhere else. So top of the fourth, runners at first and second with 2 outs. Hancock, with some Ks, but also with some walks. And he needs to settle in. Let's see if we can get out of this inning here as Cal has a mound visit with Oswald Peraza in the box. Emerson Hancock, let's take a look at the stats here. 3.2 innings pitched, 2 hits, 1 earned run, 4 walks, 5 Ks. And again, the 5 Ks is great, but the 4 walks is bad. But again, when you're a guy that is at the back end of the rotation, I think you'll take that as long as the walks don't turn into runs. But we'll see where it goes. But like in NHL and the MLB and the NFL, there's not really cheating in the draft, process. But the NBA, it definitely feels like there's cheating going on, based on, the higher market team. Now, if the NBA was succeeding like the NFL, then I don't think that they would have to go to these type of things, where they have to kind of cater to the high market teams because they know that they're not really making a lot of money or getting good viewership. But you do that by being honest and genuine and letting Cooper Flagg go to like the fucking Wizards and making their team better. And then eventually another star, gets added on with Cooper Flagg, and maybe one day the Wizards are actually fucking watchable. But I guess that's not what Adam Silver's vision of the NBA is. I wish David Stern was still, the commish of the NBA. But even when he was commish, it wasn't, it still wasn't compared to these other sports that are going on now. It's still not on the same level. All right, let's go to the bottom of the fourth inning as Hancock gets out of that jam. Thank God. Let's see who's up next here for the Mariners. Did we get another home run or two? Next up, 0 for 0 with a base on ball, left fielder Randy Arozarena. Show me some effort, baby. Batting second, 0 for 0 with a base on ball with a walk as well. First baseman, Rowdy Tellez. And batting third, 0 for 0, right fielder Leody Taveras. Let's go, Leody. I actually have been enjoying Leody's performance in right field. I feel like, sometimes when you bring a guy in, the best way for you to be able to get the fan support and the player support and the coaching support is being consistent at everything that you do. And Leody's been able to get, RBIs, some nice base knocks, some good defense, and has found, I think, kind of a spot to fill, so that way we don't have to rotate Luke Raley or someone else or Dylan Moore in that position. It seems like Leody will be our right fielder until Victor Robles, comes back healthy. And every once in a while, if Taveras needs a off breather day, then you can put in Luke Raley when he's healthy, or Demo, or whoever. But Big Ben Williamson has solidified himself at third, but you can always put Miles Mastrobuoni there as well on a day off. But again, we have a very deep team, and hopefully we can end up stacking a few more hits and runs in this first game. We have to win this first game if we're going to win 2 out of 3. Bottom of the fourth, 2-1 Mariners. First pitch to Randy Arozarena at the knees. 0-1 count. 0-1 pitch. Popped up and out into right field. 1 away. Be more patient, Randy. Next up, first baseman Rowdy Tellez. Yeah, well, Logan Evans and Hancock are going to be better than Miller. He is by far the worst pitcher, out of all the guys that we have. And that's, kind of a wild statement to say, if you're not watching the Mariners game in and game out. Because normally Bryce is right there with Luis Castillo and Wu, and, they're behind Gilbert and Kirby as our best. But he's got a back issue, and I feel not only has the back issue hurt him, also mentally, getting roughed up is hurting him too. It's a physical and a mental thing. So if it was me, I wouldn't send him to AAA because that could make it worse for him. I would just put him on the injured list, once Kirby and Gilbert come back and let him get healthy. And again, that might not be the thing that he wants to hear. But, if we do that, and then we decide between either Hancock or Evans as the last guy, that's going to give us the best chance to win, at least at the moment. Until, Bryce Miller's back is healthy and he's mentally, back to where he needs to be. 1 ball and 2 strikes from Schmidt to Tellez. Bottom of the 4th with nobody on, 1 out, 2-1 Mariners. It's a home run party here today. Yeah, and with the lottery, too, it kind of feels like things. I'm not sure overall if the lotto necessarily is like rigged from state to state. But one thing that I feel that is rigged is the tax, right? So it's like, oh, you won $1 billion. And then like after you win $1 billion, how much do you actually get? You're not getting what you think you're getting, and a lot of times like, oh, you won 10 million, but then after legal fees and the tax and everything, let's say you win 10 million, when it's all said and done, you'll probably only end up with like 3.5 to 4 million, and maybe even less, because if you have legal fees with lawyers and other things like, so it's like whatever number they tell you is never really the true number that you get. Oh man, I won 10 million. No, and then you're like, oh, here's the tax. Oh, and that gets cut down by 5 or 6. So there goes half your money. Oh, now I'm at 5 million. Oh, and then there's these other whatever weird fees. Oh, and then it goes down to 4.5. Oh, I got to get a lawyer, and then that goes down to like 3. And then at the end of the day, you're probably sitting still rich, 3-4 million, but not the advertised 10 that you won. In play, and Rowdy Tellez flies out to third, 2 away. Next up, right fielder, Leody Taveras. If you want to hear about a good story about things being rigged, do the Monopoly story with McDonald's, where you had one of the guys rig the system for him and his friends, to win all the jackpots, and then eventually he got caught and whatnot. But that's a pretty good one to look at. First pitch from Schmidt to Taveras, takes a strike looking on the line with a cutter, 0-1 count. Bottom of the 4th, 2-1 Mariners. Nobody on with 2 outs. 0-1 pitch, knuckle curve, 5 feet off the plate. 1 ball and 1 strike from Schmidt to Leody Taveras. Storm Bum in the building. What's good? But most of the time, Captain, when they end up, making a pinch, hitter switch, is because the pitcher gets switched from a lefty to a righty. So, like, we'll see Polo, 3 for 3, right? And then all of a sudden they, take them out and put in Mitch Garver, and you're like, no. But the reason that they did it is because most of the time, you're going from a righty to a lefty or a lefty to a righty. And that's the reason that they do it. And it kind of makes you, cringe a little bit. Especially when the guy's been playing good and there's other guys in the lineup that are 0 for 3 that you could have used that substitution for that guy. Why are you doing it for one of the top 3 hot guys that is, getting hits and home runs? But, it seems like Dan Wilson hasn't really been burned by that too much this year. He actually has had it work out most of the time, probably 80% of the time. It's actually worked out for him. Pitch is low and at the knees. Count now is full. 3 balls and 2 strikes from Schmidt to Leody Taveras. Storm Bum in the building. What's good, brother? Pitch fouled off with the sinker. Count still full. 3 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs. Schmidt on the mound. Leody Taveras in the box. Bottom of the 4th. 2-1 Mariners, and it's all home runs so far today, which is rare. Julio with a homer in the first. And then you had Trent Grisham homering to center when it went off Julio's glove. And then Polo with a solo jack as well. 3 solo jacks to make it 2-1 Seattle. Go, baby. Cutter fouled off. Low and away. Count still full. 3 balls and 2 strikes. But I love this series. It's probably my favorite series, in the American League, even more than when we go against the Astros and the Rangers and the A's and the Angels. I'm always up for a challenge, and the A's, are going to give it to us. Same thing with the Rangers and the Astros. So those always get, the competitive juices flowing. But I feel like when you go against teams like the Yankees or the Dodgers, it really forces you to really step up your play and you get the best out of everyone. And Taveras fouls out to third, and that is the end of the 4th inning. Let's go to the top of the 5th and see who's up next here for the Yankees. Next up for the Yankees, 1 for 2 with a run, an RBI and a K. Had that solo jack that went on Julio's glove. Trent Grisham, the former Padre. Batting second, 1 for 2, right fielder Aaron Judge. And batting third, 0 for 2, DHing Ben Wright. And a great catch there by Oswaldo Cabrera to get that last out on Leody Taveras. I see you, Oswaldo. You got some athleticism like Ben Williamson at third. And it took a little extra time to do the thumbs and whatnot. But again, tried to be able to find some new images and whatnot. And brand new image there of Aaron Judge. I think that one turned out pretty good. I like our chances for tomorrow. And I made the thumb already. Oh, baby, you already know what it is. Brian Wu on the mound. So if we win today, we're going to have a very good chance to win tomorrow if Brian Wu pitches like Brian Wu. And then obviously we have the rubber match that'll be on Wednesday in the afternoon, hence the background change, obviously during the day. And then we got another Aaron Judge and Julio. So again, I like our chances. And this team is right on par with where we're at right now as well. We're in first place. They're in first place. We're 22-17. They're 23-17. We're 12-9 at home. They're 10-9 on the road. So, this could be a potential, playoff preview. Where we end up matching up with the Yankees in the playoffs this year, both as divisional winners. And I know that would be scary because we would potentially lose to this team if we don't play well, but you're never going to know how good you really are unless you're going against the best. And, and of course, if we ended up having to go against like, the Astros or the Rangers and they made it in the wild card, so be it. But I don't get scared against the great teams. I want to be able to go against the best of the best and see where we fall. That's the only way you're going to know if we're actually a World Series contender or if we're just a playoff team or just a team that is hot at the moment. So 35 on the dono, 65 to go, and then 8 more likes to 40. There we go. We're at 32. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help your boy out. First pitch to Trent Grisham. Takes a strike looking, 0-1 count. And that should be a ball. I don't know why that's called strike. Terrible call by that ump. 0-1 pitch. Takes another strike looking. And that's 0-2 count with that sinker back-to-back, 93 miles an hour. The count should be 2-0, but it's 0-2. I don't know if this ump needs contacts, but golly. Yeah, 100% agree. At the beginning of the year, he was doing great with homers and defense and player of the week. But even prior to the Blue Jay series, I would have substituted Leo Rivas and made him play every day. And it's not like Leo Rivas has got a batting average of like 100. Like usually Leo is going to be 280 and above. Back. See ya! How the hell is Trent Grisham homering in multiple games? He never did this for the Padres and Elliott. Holy hell. 2-homer game by Trent Grisham. The first one shouldn't have even been a fucking homer. That was Julio's bad. And now Trent gets another one. And we're knotted up at 2. Next up, right fielder, Aaron Judge. And Julio had another chance if he was played that ball a little bit deeper. Yeah, maybe he would have been able to get a better jump on that, but he was in too shallow, and by the time that he caught up to it, it was already over his head. If he was playing a little bit more deep center, maybe he would have robbed that one as well. That's brutal. And Judge singles right out of the gates at the first pitch. I see you, Aaron. Nice single to left right there to Randy Arozarena. Next up, DHing Ben Rice. First pitch to Rice in the zone, fouled off with the sinker, 0-1 count. I mean, there's no guarantee that Julio would have been able to get up high enough to get it, but again, he was playing too shallow, and if he was deeper, maybe he would have been able to like push off the wall and jump up, kind of like Ichiro-esque, back in the day. And just kind of a damn shame that, Julio could have maybe prevented 2 homers, by a guy that normally isn't really a home run hitter. But Grisham has been pretty good for the team. His batting average now is 287, and it was kind of hovering around 250 to 270. Aaron Judge batting 414, which is freaking ridiculous. Slider fouled off. 1 ball and 2 strikes from Hancock to Ben Rice. But at least, on the flip side, at least that the home runs are only solo shots. Because again, if Trent Grisham had like a, 2-run blast and a 3-run blast, maybe we lose, and the game's already over. So for it to be, just solo dingers, all the way around, it definitely leaves the game open for, either team to, get hot later once the starters go out and whoever's pen is the worst, that other team will take advantage. But I don't think I've seen 2 plays like that from Julio that could have maybe been prevented, or at least 1 out of the 2. But give Trent Grisham the love. But it just kind of feels like if Julio was in a better position, that maybe he could have prevented at least 1 of those. In play, and Rice doubles to right, Judge to third with no outs. And we have to be very careful here. At this point, if this was me, I would probably pull Hancock, because anytime you end up getting to the 5th inning and you got 2 guys on with no outs, they're going to score 1 to 4 runs, period. It'll be pretty rare, unless they pull a Mariner move where they have bases loaded or guys at 2nd and 3rd with no outs and get nothing. But what are the chances of that happening with Hancock on the mound? So now you got Paul Goldschmidt, who's been very good, for this team. If I'm the manager right here, and I know our bullpen has been very shaky, I pull Hancock right here, because if you don't, it's going to turn into 3-2, 4-2, 5-2. And then if you pull them, then we're already going to be down 3 runs. Do we really want, it to get to that point? 344 average, 4 homers, 20 ribbies by Paul Goldschmidt. But again, this is where you get paid the big bucks, where you start to realize, okay, do I pull him or do I keep him in? But my golden rule would always be in the 5th or the 6th. If you got 2 guys on, you walked them, or they got base knocks and you have no outs, you pull the pitcher. Even though he has been good up to this point, he's got 2 solo jacks he's given up. But if Julio did his job, maybe the score is 2-0 Mariners right now. So Hancock has had a good outing, but there you go. Like I said, Goldschmidt singles to left, Judge scores, Rice to third, 3-2. And that's why, you either understand baseball, or you don't. And again, if you would have pulled him, and there's no guarantee that if you pull Hancock, you bring in, whoever, Colin Snyder, Bizzardo, whoever, again, there's no guarantee that next guy doesn't also give up a base hit. But, there it is. Now we're down 3-2. And it sounds like that they're going to keep him in here. But how many more runs are you going to allow before you pull him? Are you going to let it get to 5-2 and then put us in a fucking hole? So first pitch from Hancock to Bellinger. But again, it's like you have to recognize baseball. And you have to understand strategy. And when you watch as many games as we do here, you can kind of pick up on those things. And rough. Now you got runners on the corners at 1st and 3rd with no outs. Hancock on the mound. Bellinger 3 feet off the plate with the slider to Cody Bellinger. Pull him already. In play, single to right. Rice scores. Goldschmidt to second. 4-2 Yankees. I mean, not to say that I got the ESP, but again, when you watch as much baseball as I do, from beginning to end, I can predict when things are going to happen. And I'm not going to be right 100% of the time, but I feel I'm going to be more right than any other streamer on YouTube based on the reading and the film study and grinding at this job 7 days a week. And, I'm not surprised. Now it's 4-2 with runners at first and second with no outs, and this could have all been prevented if you would have pulled them when the game was 2-2. You know, and those are the things that, like, when it's negative, I don't want to be right. You know, I want to be wrong. You know, when it ends up being something where I feel like the other team is going to score and I have a prediction, I want to be wrong. I want to get out of the inning. But it's just like when you know the limitations of your pitcher and you know how good the Yankee hitters are and you know how things typically go when guys are on second and third or first and second with no outs and your pitcher, you know, they're trying to stretch him as far as he can go. But just that simple move by Dan Wilson not pulling him, now what else do you need? Like, what happens next? You give up a RBI, another RBI, and then what happens? Volpe goes for like a 3-run blast, right? And then all of a sudden we're down 7-2 where the game could have been 2-2, you know? And I don't think Volpe is going to go yard, but obviously, you know, we've already fucked ourselves in this game early on. And Volpe lines out to right, Goldschmidt to third. Top of the fifth, runners on the corners. And this all could have been prevented. You know, and that's the difference between, you know, having a manager that knows these things and a manager that doesn't. That just is, you know, trying to maximize his pitcher and not looking at strategy within the game. You know, you're just, you know your bullpen stinks and you're just trying to get the most out of him. But you have to understand when limitations are done and you have to pull. Otherwise, you're going to end up costing the team. And, you know, and we still could have brought in somebody and the same result could have happened, like I said, but I think I would have rather seen that, you know, that decision. Top of the fifth, runners on the corners at first and third with 1 out. And we got a 1-1 count now to Austin Wells. And again, you know, once you end up scoring a couple hits with RBIs, what's the next thing that typically happens? That unexpected 3-run homer or 2-run homer when they've already hit you with a couple RBIs and took the lead. It was just 2-2. Now it's 4-2. And then, I mean, if you really want to, you know, dig into the other team, then a guy that normally doesn't hit homers sometimes will go yard in this situation. And then all of a sudden you look up at the scoreboard and you was like, dude, I went to the bathroom and it was 2-2. And then you come back and it's 7-2. And look at it, it just happened. Look at that. My ESP. Look at that. There it is. I'm telling you, there is no one that knows this game better than me that's on YouTube. I called it. I wish I was wrong, but that's exactly what happens in baseball. It's like the sports gods, they are listening to the stream and they understand. They're like, man, this guy really knows his shit. And then there it is. A guy that typically doesn't hit homers in Austin Wells, and all the homers are going to Julio. And just like I said before it happened, Austin Wells, a guy that normally doesn't hit homers, 3-run jack, and now we're down 7-2. Say, why can't I be wrong in these kind of situations? You know, I can have predictions that go for the Mariners, but I can also give you predictions that go against the Mariners. And single-handedly, Dan Wilson cost us this game. Thanks a lot, Dan, idiot. And Oswaldo Cabrera grounds out to second, 2 away. But again, you know, there's guys like Tony Romo that can predict sports, you know, on CBS. But if you watch this channel on a regular basis, I'll have Tony Romo moments a couple times every stream, period. And, you know, and it's not just baseball. But I really wish that I was wrong, you know. But again, when you know when another team's got guys on second and third or first and second with no outs in the fifth, and even if the starting pitcher up to that point has been pretty good, you know, even though he gave up 2 homers, I know how these things go because I watch every single fucking situation in baseball. You know, for a lot of y'all, you know, when the Mariners are getting their ass kicked, you guys can, you know, turn the game off. You can go for a walk. You can go to the store. You can, you know, but for me, I have to watch, you know, when we're doing good, and I have to watch all the way to the end when we're doing bad. So I'm always paying attention to every single situation in baseball that's happening, not only on the Mariners, but for other teams. And exactly what happened. You know, we were tied 2-2. They had runners at second and third with no outs. That is when you pull a pitcher. And you don't, then it goes to 3-2. Then they end up getting another hit, 4-2. Then you end up getting another out. And then some weird guy that normally never hits homers when you got guys on the corners, right? He ends up going yard. And exactly what happened with Austin Wells fucking happened. And he hit a 3-run jack. And then all of a sudden, for those Mariner fans that went to the bathroom or went to go get a snack when we were tied up 2-2, now it's 7-2. And essentially this game is over. Brutal. Bad managing by Dan Wilson. And I feel like with sports, it repeats itself. And that's why I'm able to come up with so many ESP predictions that come true. Baseball, basketball, football, hockey. Because if you're, a student of the game and you end up watching hundreds to thousands of games, I've been watching sports since 1985. So, records are meant to be broken, but, history repeats itself. You just have to look at the signs and recognize the signs. And it's not just, history repeats itself for things that happen to the Mariners. History repeats itself in situations on any team. And that's the golden rule. When you end up having a pitcher, that is, doing good or not doing good, but it's the fifth inning and there's, they walk the first two guys or you get two guys on and there's no outs, either first and second or second and third, you pull them every single time. Because if you don't, then this is the type of shit that happens. RBI, then it goes from 2-2 to 3-2, RBI, 4-2, right? And then all of a sudden, maybe you get one out and then it's, the next guy, some random jabroni that never fucking hits homers. And then what happens? Pitch right down the middle. Austin Wells never fucking hits homers. And then jabroni ends up hitting a 3-run jack literally 10 seconds before I said it was going to happen, and it happened. And then we're down 7-2. So now we're going to have to really try to focus on game 2 and game 3. Again, emotionally, we might still be able to get to 4 to 5 runs, but I highly doubt we're going to come back and win this now. Yeah, I'm 43, bro. I've been watching sports since 1985. But I appreciate the comment that I look like I'm in my 20s. First pitch to Ben Williamson. Takes a strike looking with a cutter. 0-1 count. I guess it is possible, that the Mariners could end up having this amazing rally. But again, when you have a manager that doesn't know what he's doing, and then you end up, giving the other team 5 runs halfway through the game, the chance of us coming back to win this game, or even tie, is probably like 1%. So, we're going to have to refocus, retool, and win with Wu. And then obviously, try to win with Castillo, on Wednesday in the rubber match, because this one might be, it's not 100% over, but kind of feels like it. And Williamson strikes out swinging, 2 away. Next up, shortstop J.P. Crawford. First pitch, strike looking in the zone with the sinker, 0-1 count. Yeah. But also, too, I don't drink heavy anymore. I eat healthy. I walk 5 miles a day with my pup. So I've made a lot of changes. Obviously, I got to, be blessed by my parents, with some good genetics and whatnot. But, if you take care of your body and your mind, you can make a difference, not only with your appearance, but the way that you feel. That's big facts. Bottom of the 5th, 7-2 Yankees. 0-2 count to J.P. Crawford. Takes another strike looking with the cutter. And JP strikes out swinging. And again, it just really sucks because I felt that before that situation, started to come to light, if we would have made the decision to pull him, and it's still possible if we would have brought in Brash or Snyder or Bizzardo or anybody, right? Gabe Spire, the same result could have happened. Right. But most of the time when you end up making the substitution, you may end up giving up 1 or 2 runs, but it won't be the 5 runs that you gave up. You end up making the substitution, they're probably going to get 1 or 2 runs. But the thing is that if you make the substitution at the right time, maybe the score right now is 4-2 or 3-2, and then we still have a chance to win. And the players still feel like they want to compete to the end. But when you end up not pulling him, right, it leads into 1 RBI to another RBI. You get 1 out, and then all of a sudden you get some jabroni that never hits homers. They pitch it right down the middle, and then Austin Wells with the 3-run jack. And, I've had some pretty good ESP moments on the channel, but that one was one of the best ones in 2025 for sure. But I just wish that most of my ESP moments where I predict the future would benefit the Mariners, not fucking hurt us. But again, it's all about if you watch sports and you pay attention to situational coaching and managing the right way and the wrong way. And that'll go for your guys' favorite teams as well. If you ever see your favorite team, and you have a starting pitcher, no matter if he's doing good or bad, and it's the 5th inning, and normally you want guys to go 6 innings, and it ends up being 0 outs with 2 guys on, and you don't pull them, watch what happens when you watch the rest of that game. And 9 times out of 10, what you saw that happened to the Mariners will happen to your favorite team as well. So, again, something that hopefully, I know Dan Wilson probably doesn't even have anybody, that does analytics or statistics to actually go over the numbers, but it's frightening on like how high of a percentage the other team will fuck you up if you don't make the pull at the right time. And it definitely cost us this game for sure. And I really wanted us to try to win this fucking game. And, again, if we were only down 3-2 or 4-2, I think we would still have a good chance to win. But now down by 5 runs, you're really asking a lot. And now you got Legomina in, which is, I don't know if we really trust him either, but it would have been better than Hancock at that moment. Next up is Trent Grisham again. He's going for 3 homers today. Takes a strike looking outside of the zone. Casey Legomina on the mound. It's a little bit late now, Dan Wilson. 1 ball and 2 strikes from Legomina to Grisham, who's got 2 homers to center. And Julio could have maybe robbed both of those homers if he was playing in position. He was playing too shallow. And one obviously went off his mitt and went off the wall and bounced over. And then the other one, he was too shallow. And by the time he caught up to the ball, it went over his head. And if he was just a couple steps deeper in center, I think he would have got the second one, but we'll never know. Sweeper inside at the knees, 81 miles an hour by Legomina. 2 balls and 2 strikes to Trent Grisham. 2-2 pitch, right down the pipe, fouled off with the 4-seam fastball, 95 miles an hour by Legomina. And now the Mariners are down by 5 runs. Zay in the building. What's good? And Grisham strikes out swinging. Thank God. We don't want him to go for another one. But he didn't do this when he was on the Padres. But again, when you go to the Yankees, everything gets better for a lot of players. It's a different standard that you're held to when you go to the Dodgers or the Yankees. Facts. Next up, 2 for 3 with a run, Aaron Judge, who's playing like the best player in MLB in 2025. And obviously him and Shohei Ohtani are the 2 best players, but Judge statistically is number 1 in almost every fucking offensive category. First pitch, 4-seam fastball, should have been a strike, called ball. Don't know why. 1-0 pitch, low and away. 2 balls and no strikes from Legomina to Judge, where it should be 1 ball and 1 strike. But, this ump has terrible vision today. 2-0 pitch, takes a strike looking right down the pipe with the sinker, 94 miles an hour. 2 balls and 1 strike with 1 out and nobody on. We're in the top of the 6th. 7-2 Yankees when we were tied 2-2, but they had runners at 2nd and 3rd with no outs in the 5th. Dan Wilson got greedy because our bullpen fucking stinks and he didn't want to bring someone in an inning early, and it cost us. And they ended up getting 5 fucking runs, and essentially now the game is almost unwinnable. Now, we could still end up maybe getting to 4 or 5 runs, but you got to think they're at 7 and they're not done. They have probably a very good chance of getting to 8, 9, or 10 before this game is over, especially if our bullpen ends up being suspect like Hancock was up in that 5th inning. Pitches low and away, about 10 feet off the plate with the sweeper. 3 balls and 2 strikes from Legomina to Judge. And as you can see, the guys that we have in the pen are not going to be very good. They're going to be similar to Logan Evans, Emerson Hancock, Bryce Miller. It's rough when you can only be trustworthy of maybe like Luis Castillo and Wu. And then we got Logan Gilbert and George Kirby, who are our 2 best that are injured. And we do have one of the best closers in baseball in Munoz, but we can't use him when we're fucking down 5. First pitch to Ben Rice. Low and at the knees, 1-0 count from Legomina. As we see Judge at first with the walk. What's new? 1-0 pitch. Tries to jam the hitter at the hips with the four-seam fastball, 93 miles an hour from Legumina. 2 balls, no strikes, with a runner at first, Aaron Judge, and 1 out, and the Mariners are down 7-2. Yeah, well, we know we're one of the best teams. You know, we won 9 consecutive series in a row, but we just got swept by the fucking Blue Jays. And, you know, they're a team that's around 500, right, where we won 2 out of 3 in Toronto as Rice grounds out into the double play, and we get out of the inning. But, again, who knows what could have happened if we would have brought Legumina in earlier at the right time. You know, maybe the game is 2-2. Maybe the game is 3-2. Maybe it's 4-2. But I guarantee it wouldn't have been 7-2. You know, but hopefully that's something that someone will point out to Dan Wilson for future games because, you know, stats and analytics fucking matter. All right, let's see who's up here next for the Mariners, and hopefully we can get to at least 5 runs in this game, so that way the momentum will carry over with Brian Wu on the bump tomorrow, and then obviously we got Castillo on Wednesday. So it still will give us a chance, you know, if we play well tomorrow and Wednesday, that we could win 2 out of 3, but if we play this type of baseball, you know, we're going to have a chance to get swept, or maybe we only win 1 game. You know, maybe we win the Wu start tomorrow and we lose with Castillo on Wednesday, but again, I want to be able to see effort because effort will carry over to the next day. Next up for the Mariners, 1 for 2 with a run, RBI, and a K, DHing Jorge Polanco, who had a solo dinger early on. We need another one. Batting second, 1 for 2 with a homer as well. Solo dinger in the first, Julio Rodriguez. Tried ends up. And batting third, 0 for 2. Have a little bit more patience in the box. We need you to homer. Catcher, big dumper, Cal Raleigh. Let's go, baby. Polo, Julio, Cal. Let's go. First pitch to Polo, low and away with the knuckle curve, 84 miles an hour, 1-0 count from Schmidt to Polo. But now I think we can put, you know, Emerson Hancock in that same level with Bryce Miller, you know, completely untrustworthy. So again, now, you know, we're going to have to go Wu as the 1, Castillo as the 2, Logan Evans as the 3. He's going to be good at home and shitty on the road. And then, you know, untrustworthy Miller and Hancock. And then obviously we have to wait for Logan Gilbert and George Kirby to get healthy here in the next couple weeks. Polo grounds out to third, throw to first, 1 away. Next up for the Mariners, 1 for 2 with a run, RBI, and a K, solo dinger early in the matchup. Center fielder Julio Rodriguez. Tried ends up. Let's go. First pitch, takes a strike swinging on a cutter, low and away. 82 miles an hour. 92 miles an hour. 0-1 count. Clark Schmidt wheeling and dealing. And again, he came into the game with an 0-1 record and ERA of 4.79, but has pitched much better than that at this point. 5.1 innings pitched, 2 hits, 2 earned runs, 2 walks, 6 Ks. And Hancock had 4 walks and 5 Ks, but, you know, that was on the manager. Not only did you hurt, you know, Emerson Hancock's confidence, you lost the chance, you know, by being a good manager with that strategy, and you fucked us. In play, and Julio grounds out to the pitcher, throw to first, 2 away. Next up, catcher, big dumper, Cal Raleigh. We need the torpedo bat to come alive. Come on now. Let's go. Come on, Cal. Try dance up. First pitch, high and away with the sinker. 91 miles an hour, 1-0 count from Schmidt to Raleigh. Come on, Big Dumper. Come on, Mariner Moose. If we ever needed you, we needed you now. Let's go. You know, some games are going to be lost by the players, but other games are going to be lost by the manager. And this one is definitely 100% on Dan Wilson. You know, I just really wanted us to come out strong, and we did. You know, where it was just solo dingers early on, just 2-2, but brutal. Pitch is fouled off, right down the pipe. 2 balls, 1 strike with 2 outs, nobody on. We're at the bottom of the 6th. And we're down 5 runs, 7-2 to the Yankees. Pitch is low and away with that knuckle curve. 3 balls and 1 strike to Schmidt. To Big Dumper, Cal Raleigh. Yeah. Well, the Braves had a lot of injuries. They haven't had Ronald Acuna all year. You know, obviously Jurickson Profar doing the PEDs. You were really banking on him being the leadoff hitter and being as dominant as he was for the Padres, for the Braves. So there's been a lot of problems with pitching injuries. Obviously, positional players being injured or suspended. And again, it's just trying to be able to get your guys healthy. And as the season goes along, they should be able to slowly but surely, kind of climb out of the hole that they dug themselves into, especially when you're going to get more of your guys back into the lineup sooner than later. But I follow the whole entire league, so I know exactly what's going on. All right, end of the 6th inning. Mariners down by 5, 7-2 New York. Let's see who's up next for the Yankees here in the top of the 7th. Next up for the Yankees, 1 for 3 with a run and an RBI. First baseman who's had a great season for New York after struggling at the end of his career with the Cardinals, Paul Goldschmidt. Sometimes a change of scenery can be good for both organizations. Batting second, 1 for 2 with a run, RBI, and a base on ball. Former Dodger and Cub, now left fielder for the Yankees, Cody Bellinger. And batting third, 0 for 1 with 2 base on balls, shortstop Anthony Volpe. And we got Bizzardo coming in here now for Legomina. Well, torpedo bats are only going to work if you can actually make contact with the baseball, because they take some of the wood from the bottom of the barrel and they put it in the sweet spot. So the sweet spot is a little bit more wider. But again, if you can't make contact, on that right sweet spot, it's not going to really, again, you're still going to be able to, there's different weights, to the torpedo bats. Some people like a bat heavier. Some people like the bat lighter, and again, like with Cal Raleigh on our team, he's got a torpedo bat for the left side, and then the specs and the size and the weight is different when he switch hits on the right side. He had to have one custom made for, a different specification based on, how, much weight and how it feels in his hands. So, but again, if you are a good contact hitter or a good power hitter for homers and you end up using a torpedo bat, it could definitely increase your homers, I think, depending on how good of a hitter you are. But again, if you're on, you could probably, get 5 to 15 more homers throughout a season. Like if you're normally getting like 25 to 30 as Goldschmidt singles to center there, but if you're normally getting 20 to 30 and you use a torpedo bat, you definitely could get to 30 to 50 with it if you get on a run in a groove. Like when Cal Raleigh first got it, he hit a home run in the first 3 games with it. Then he went no home runs in game 4. And then in game 5, he hit a home run from the left side and the right side. So again, and that's how Cal was able to be the top guy before Aaron Judge just passed him, a few games back. So next up is Cody Bellinger. But not every, person on every team is using them. Roughly from the research that I've, seen and done, it seems like, a couple guys per team are using them. It's not like the whole roster is going to be using a torpedo bat. First pitch takes a strike looking from Bizzardo to Bellinger. 0-1 count. 0-1 pitch, low and at the knees with the splitter. Should have been strike. Called ball. 1 ball and 1 strike from Bizzardo to Bellinger. 1-1 pitch, low and at the knees with a big strike swinging. Big swing and a miss by Cody Bellinger. 1 ball and 2 strikes from Bizzardo to Bellinger. Come on, Eduardo. Edward Bizzardo. 1-2 pitch, fouled off with the slider. 1 ball, 2 strikes, no outs, runner at first, top of the 7th, 7-2 Yankees. I do everything on the channel. I've been doing this for 13 years. This is my 9th year on YouTube. I do Mariners, I do Oregon Ducks, I do NFL, Sunday night, Monday night, Thursday night, other games. If I have filler streams, I'll do like Kraken or Blazers, so once in a while we'll do some, NHL or NBA earlier in the year. I do WWE, Monday Night Raw and PLEs, pay-per-views once a month. So, we literally do pretty much everything. Basketball, baseball, football, hockey, NASCAR. But, for baseball season, typically I try to do 150 plus games of the Mariners. I do every Oregon Duck game, and then I do a lot of NFL during that time season. And then filler streams, when, maybe football's out of season and baseball hasn't started, then we do a little bit of basketball, NHL, and NASCAR, from like February to like March. And then once baseball season goes, then I typically focus on, the Mariners pretty much. And then if I don't do Mariners, my dad has been a Dodger fan since the 50s. He grew up in LA and Hawaii. So every once in a while, I'll do a couple Dodger games a season, or, some other teams, if there's good matchups, if the Mariners have a day off. But I'm trying to grind out because I'm really the only person that grinds out Mariner games like this. And Cody Bellinger takes a strike looking and got him. Bizzardo. There we go. 1 away. Next up, shortstop Anthony Volpe. Yeah, but I put in a lot of energy and a lot of work. I got to be an expert not only on the Mariners, but every team, for baseball, basketball, football, hockey, NASCAR, WWE. So I typically read, probably about, 4 to 6 hours a day. And that's not including what I'm doing here on the channel. So it's like all I do, this is like, this is my full-time job. So all I do is read, watch film, watch highlights, watch games, go back through and, do some more reading on the blogs and the vlogs and, pretty much try to, be up to date with everything that's going on in the sport world and in the wrestling world. So that definitely takes a lot of time and energy. But again, this is the dream and the goal. So, someone's got to do it. Dreams aren't easy. In play, and Volpe singles to right, Goldschmidt to third. Now you got runners on the corners at first and third with 1 out. Next up is Austin Wells. Yeah, but we're on the brink of 20,800 subs. We got over 4 million views on the channel. And like I said, it takes a lot of effort and energy. But again, when you have dreams and goals, you got to put in that hard work, to make, shit happen. So first pitch to Wells. Takes a strike looking low in the zone with a slider, 83 miles an hour, 0-1 count. And Wells was the one that pretty much put the nail in the coffin when we were down 4-2, when they should have pulled Emerson Hancock with runners at second and third with no outs, but Dan Wilson didn't. and then after an out, Wells goes yard, and that's typically what happens in baseball. You just have to be able to notice the patterns. And, I wish that my predictions sometimes were wrong when it benefits the other team. But, when you watch as much as I do and you read as much as I do, a lot of times I can have a Tony Romo, moment in any sport if you just pay attention. Read in between the lines. Takes a big swing and a miss on a four-seam fastball behind in the count now 0-2. 0-2 pitch. Austin Wells fouls that one off. Nice souvenir for a fan. Top of the seventh, runners on the corners at first and third with one out. Bizzardo on the mound. Wells in the box. Had a 3-run blast to pretty much put the nail in the coffin. And hopefully we can still get a few more runs because we got Brian Wu on the bump tomorrow. And we need to win that after getting swept by the Blue Jays. And then we obviously have Luis Castillo on Wednesday. In play, and Wells hits a sac fly to left. Goldschmidt scores. 8-2 Yankees. Next up, third baseman, 0 for 2 with a base on ball, Oswaldo Cabrera. First pitch from Bizzardo to Cabrera. Takes a strike looking on a slider right on the line, 0-1 count. Yeah, but you don't need to be sorry. I mean, this is one of my favorite teams. I've been watching this team since the mid 80s. I understand sometimes the players are going to lose the game. Sometimes the manager is going to be the one that loses the game. And anytime you go against a team like the Yankees or Dodgers and you're the opponent, that there's going to be a good chance to lose, regardless on how good your team is, because it's the Yankees and the Dodgers. They have great team history. They both spend a shitload of money. They have great players every single year. And that's why I look forward to playing them. I don't look forward to losing, 8-2 like this. But, again, I've had some good memories, watching, the MLB. And, when you end up getting an Aaron Judge, piece of memorabilia during his 62 home run season, I might not be a Yankee fan myself, but I definitely appreciate and love Aaron Judge and what he brings to the sport. And sometimes, you're going to find a way to get it done. And other times, the Yankees are going to be the Yankees and they're going to impose their will. But hopefully we'll play better in game 2 and game 3. And at the very least, we have to win at least 1 out of 3. But if we win tomorrow with Wu, we might be able to win that last game with Castillo. But don't hold your breath. Plus, if you're a Pacific Northwest fan, sometimes it's tough. Blazers, Oregon Ducks, even though they're really good right now. Oregon State Beavers, Washington Huskies, Washington State Cougars, the Seahawks, the Kraken, the Mariners. The Sonics will be back, and they'll end up being an expansion team. But the thing that people realize or maybe not realize is that when Pacific Northwest teams in Oregon and Washington, when they're good, they're like championship good. But sometimes it takes 4 to 5 years or sometimes even 8 to 10 years to build it. And then it only lasts for a couple years. So you have to try to win it all, or get to the championship. And you may not win it all, the first time that you get there, or you may not win it at all ever, in that little window, and you have to build again. But again, sometimes, the teams in the Pacific Northwest will underwhelm. But again, once you build it and it ends up being championship worthy, then it ends up being like a very, very good team. If you actually look in the past on the teams with like the Huskies and Michael Penix Jr., what the Oregon Ducks have right now, what the Seattle Seahawks were able to do with the Legion of Boom and Marshawn Lynch, the Sonics winning a championship back in the day in the late 70s, the Blazers winning one back in the day at that time as well. So, you start to see, certain teams where, yeah, it might be tough, watching your team, struggle, here and there. But again, this team for the Seattle Mariners in 2025, this is the best team that we've had in 24 years. since the 2001 Ichiro rookie season. So again, even though we know we're going to go through some highs and some lows and some peaks and some valleys, but overall, it's a fun thing to watch. And we just hope that the starting pitching can get healthy. The bullpen can be better. Besides Andres Munoz, who's like the best closer in baseball. Hopefully we get Logan Gilbert, George Kirby, as well as Victor Robles healthy. Ryan Bliss, Luke Raley, and a few others. But we're the number one injured team in baseball with the Braves. So, and the Braves kind of dug themselves in a hole, but now they're climbing out. And the Mariners were able to win even with the injuries. But again, you're not going to be able to keep a hot streak going forever. There's going to be a time and a moment where you play a team that's really good and they punch you in the mouth and you kind of hit a wall, and you just have to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and hopefully you can get back to playing good baseball or whatever sport that we're watching, that next game. Bottom of the seventh, 8-2 Yankees. Schmidt on the mound, going extra than he was supposed to, but I don't blame him. Randy Arozarena in the box. 2 balls and 2 strikes with nobody on and no outs, and hopefully the Mariners can get to at least 4 or 5 to make me feel a little bit better about this game. And there's Randy with a nice hit to right field. Go, go, go. And Randy Arozarena gets a nice double there. Nice job, Randy. I got to look at all the positives, even when we're losing. Some people, when the game is, essentially out of reach, people turn the TV off or they go. But, when I do this as a full-time job, I don't have that luxury. When things are going good or going bad, you got to be able to, take the good, the bad, and the ugly. Nice. Anna, this one was Dan Wilson's fault, and if you were here earlier in the broadcast, I literally called every single thing that happened for us to lose. And, I feel shitty about it. But again, it's like I can predict when things go right for our favorite teams or the teams that I'm calling, but I also can predict when things are going to go off the rails. And again, any pitcher, doesn't matter if you're an all-star or a scrub, if you're in the 5th inning and you got runners at 1st and 2nd or 2nd and 3rd with no outs, right? You either walked them or they got hits. You pull the pitcher. I don't give a shit if it's Nolan Ryan. You pull him, right? And because if you don't, what will happen is the next guy up will get an RBI, which happened 3-2, right? Yankees. Then another guy goes up, another RBI. 4-2 Yankees. Then they end up getting like an out or 2, after they had no outs. But what happens? Then you get some guy that's like some kind of random guy that never hits homers, right? And when you're already feeling the sting of, losing the lead, and then you didn't pull the pitcher when you should have, right? And then it's 4-2, what happened? I said, Wells is going to go for a 3-run blast. And literally 10 seconds later, Wells hits a 3-run blast, and then we're down 7-2. So, history repeats itself, not only with the Mariners, but with any team in baseball. And again, this loss is 100% on Dan Wilson. And again, we haven't had too many that have been his fault. But again, we could have put in, Bizzardo or Legumina, and the same thing could have happened. But most of the time when you substitute another guy in, even though our bullpen does suck and it's not good, Brash is good, Gabe Spire is good, Andres Munoz, our closer, is amazing. But other than those 3 guys, everyone else is kind of ass, in my opinion. They're not good. They're not fucking trustworthy, right? And I think that if we would have put in Legumina, we probably would have given up 1 or 2 runs. And then maybe right now we're down 4-2, and we would actually still have a chance to tie or win. But when you end up being an idiot and not making the move when you need to, you pay the price. And we paid the price fucking today. And the Yankees aren't done. There's a good chance that they're going to get to double digits at this point. And I kind of feel like the body language of the Mariner players that they've already kind of given up. And we haven't really seen the Mariners give up, all year. But again, in that Blue Jay series, Mother's Day yesterday, they gave up, after they ended up getting down. And again, when you're down 9-1, and whether it be in the 5th inning or the 8th inning, you can tell by looking at shoulder shrugs, if they're hanging their head, if they're thinking about, what am I going to go eat for dinner? I need to go get a drink. You're thinking about tomorrow's game instead of today. And athletes do it in all sports when the game gets ugly. Really the only disciplined teams and players will still be able to, hang tough, even when they're down by a big deficit. And, Mariners, not or really a team that typically is like that. But again, this team is definitely better than any team we've had in 24 years. But, that's what happens, when you play a team that's on your level. We're 22-17. They're 23-17. And it wouldn't shock me if we, match up with the Yankees in the playoffs this year. Yeah, but if you start coming to the stream and you start watching stuff, like I said, whether people think it's delayed or not, I mean, like I said, I'm calling the pitches on the game that's live, and I'll do it with football or anything else. So, and like I said, I'm not going to be right 100% of the time. But again, there's not very many people that are dedicated to their craft like me, that put in as much time and energy and effort, off stream like me. And, I let the results speak for themselves. Bottom of the seventh, 8-2 Yankees. Leiter Jr. on the mound, Rowdy Tellez in the box. And that pitch is low and at the knees. 1 ball and 2 strikes with no outs with the runner at second. Leiter Jr. on the mound, Rowdy Tellez in the box. In play. And Tellez grounds out to third. Randy Arozarena slides into third with 1 away. Next up is Leody Taveras. Yeah. Also, some things I don't want to say some things are common sense, but it's like also like in football, when you have like a really good team and then they decide not to go for a field goal when they're in field goal range. And then you end up, it's early in the game and they think it's not going to matter. But then as the game progresses, it gets very back and forth. And then maybe there's a late turnover. And then all of a sudden you look up the scoreboard. And if you would have kicked that field goal, you would have won. But then you chose to go for it and got nothing, or, you turned the ball over or whatever. And then all of a sudden you look at the scoreboard and then the final score is 21-20. And if you just would have, done what you were supposed to do, take the points and not leave them there and not be overly aggressive and trying to be like Chip Kelly all the time, and a lot of NFL and college football teams lose in that kind of scenario, where they're not taking what's given to them. You have to take the points while they're there. Field goals aren't sexy. Touchdowns are sexy, but sometimes you have to take the 3 when it's there. Otherwise, you never know when it might come back to bite you late in the game, and then you end up losing by 1 or 2, and you're thinking, God damn it, if we just would have kicked that field goal, we would have won. But, sometimes these coaches, they're too arrogant. They have too much ego and cockiness that they just think that they're going to get a touchdown or a first down every single time. As Leody Taveras strikes out, 2 away. Next up for the Mariners, in the 8-hole, second baseman Dylan Moore. 0 for 2 with a K. Now we have Randy Arozarena at third, and hopefully we can get at least a run or 2 more, just to make Mariner fans feel a little bit better about this game. Oh, yeah. I 100% agree. But now they don't want to pay T-Rex, and that's been like the best defensive player on their roster. So, I mean, again, they're all offense with Burrow and Jamar Chase and all that. But, if you don't have Trey Hendrickson, good luck, because your defense already stinks when he's on there, and he's like one of the best defensive players in the NFL. If he leaves, good luck. It's gonna be, you might be able to score with Burrow and Chase, but you're not going to be able to stop a nosebleed on that other side, and you're definitely not getting any fucking sack lunches or pressures without T-Rex in the lineup. 1 ball and 1 strike from Leiter Jr. to Demo. But I think it's just like if you're, paying attention to sports and you pay attention to situations, and see how managers do things. There we go. And Demo singles to right. Randy Arozarena scores. There we go. 8-3 Yankees. And again, I just want us to chip away. If we're not going to win this game, let's try to at least get to 5. And then that'll carry over with Brian Wu tomorrow. Nice job, Demo. Next up, third baseman, Ben Williamson. Let's go, Ben. Let's go, Mariner Moose. Well, in years past, they had Matt Bryant, Koo, like they have some guys. They'll be better with Penix, in the lineup, and I assume the Bucks will win the division, but Atlanta will be second. And then we'll see if the Saints will be better, than the Panthers or not. And obviously with Carr retiring, if they're going to go with the former Oregon Duck quarterback with Shuck, he ain't good enough to lead that team. So I imagine Saints fans are losing their minds and whatnot, but we'll see where it goes. Bottom of the seventh. 8-3 Yankees, runner at first with 2 outs. Williamson in the box. That pitch fouled off. 1 ball and 2 strikes from Leiter Jr. to Ben Williamson. Oh, I do love Chip. I as an Oregon fan, I didn't like him calling all those amazing plays for the Buckeyes and him winning the Natty for, Ohio State, because, he was the single reason why they won. If they didn't have Chip Kelly calling the plays for the Buckeyes, they wouldn't have gotten to the championship. They wouldn't have gotten to that point. They would have lost at some point, in the playoffs. They were a very, very good team, but Chip was the best offensive play caller in college football last season, and now he's a part of the Raiders. So we're going to see him and Pete Carroll do some nice things with Genty and company. So with Geno Smith as well. So definitely excited to see where that goes. But I've always been a Chip fan. I always appreciate what he brought to Oregon. He brought us the best recruiting that we had with LaMichael James and DeAnthony Thomas with jerseys that I still rock to this day. And, some guys are just meant for college football and they're not really meant to go to the NFL. And he tried the NFL, didn't work. But now, coming in as maybe more of a coordinator rather than a head coach, sometimes you just got to be able to figure out what you're good at. Some guys are good as leaders, as coaches. Other guys can actually call plays and they can be a leader. But some guys, they can only call plays and they're not going to be really great at the leadership part. And again, so if you can kind of understand, are you a Josh McDaniels, or Chip Kelly, where you're more of a play caller and not like a leader as a head coach on that level? And it's different when you're a leader to boys in college or a leader to men. And if you get, grown men with egos and they don't respect you, even if you're a good play caller, sometimes it just doesn't work out. So, it's okay to be a specialist, like, to be like the best offensive coordinator, in college or NFL, rather than, being a head coach and then getting fired from some shitty team after 2 to 3 years. Like, sometimes you just got to be able to figure it out, End of the 7th inning, 8-3 Yankees. Let's see who's up next here for New York. Next up for the Yankees, 0 for 3 with a K, second baseman Oswald Peraza. Batting second, center fielder with 2 homers today, Trent Grisham. And batting third, right fielder Aaron Judge. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Captain, are you still in the room? Let's see where we're at. Where are we at? We are at 41, 9 more likes to get to 50. And I believe we're at 35 on the dono train, 65 to go. Yeah, but I've been watching, Oregon Duck football since Rich Brooks, back in the day, and then Mike Bellotti, and then with Chip, and, going through all the other guys that we've had, with the Helfrich and the Mario Cristobal. But, Dan Lanning is the best coach that we've had since Chip Kelly, and he may be able to do something that Chip never was able to do for Oregon and win a natty. So I do believe that if Lanning stays for another 10 years, we will go to at least 2 natties, and hopefully we can win 1 out of those 2. That's at the bare minimum if he stays for 10 years and keeps recruiting, the way that he's been recruiting. But again, once Kirby Smart gets fired from Georgia, there is a chance that, Lanning would leave to take that job. But if he already gets a championship under his belt, then it might make it easier for him to leave. In play, and Peraza doubles to left. No, Falcons had 0% chance of winning the division. You could have had Michael Penix Jr. You could have had, Kirk Cousins, your team had no defense. And again, you have skill position players, with Pitts and London and Bijan Robinson. But I'm a Buck fan. So, with Baker and Evans and Godwin and, Bucky Irving and Rashad White with our defense, the NFC South is run through Tampa. And again, it's like we haven't won the division 4 or 5 years in a row by accident. So now the Falcons might be able to be better than the Saints, and you might be able to get second place, but there is a separation between the Bucs and everyone else in the division. The Bucs are at the top. The Falcons should be number 2 this year, and then the Saints and the Panthers will battle it out for third place, in the division. So, but you had 0% chance of taking over the division last year. You guys didn't have any defense. And again, having a rookie quarterback, even if Penix would have started at the beginning of the year, it would have been better than what you got out of Kirk Cousins, but not good enough to make the playoffs or have a better record than Tampa Bay, period. I mean, go back and look at what Baker Mayfield's stat line was from last year, and what we did. So, but I do believe that one day that the Falcons could, win the division. It's not like, they definitely are better than the Saints and the Panthers now. The Saints were the second best team for many, many years, but I think Atlanta now is going to surpass them. And now it'll be Tampa and Atlanta running that NFC South. Bizzardo on the mound with Aaron Judge in the box. Runner at second in the top of the 8th with 1 out. Aaron Judge batting a cool .414 with 14 homers, leading the MLB ranks. First pitch with a slider low and away. 1-0 count from Bizzardo to Judge. .1-0 pitch. Inside with the slider. Tries to jam the hitter. 2 balls, no strikes from Bizzardo to Judge. 2-0 pitch, takes a strike looking right down the pipe. 2 balls and 1 strike from Bizzardo to Aaron Judge. Come on, Bizzardo. Pitch fouled off. 2 balls, 2 strikes, and 1 out. Judge could definitely get an RBI here. There's a runner at second. I mean, he's the best player in baseball this year, statistically speaking. Batting average, home runs, RBIs, OPS. No one is even close to what Aaron Judge is doing this year. Even Shohei Ohtani isn't, on the Judge level, and Ohtani is very good. Those are the 2 best players in baseball. But Judge, statistically right now, is even doing better than Shohei. Pitch outside of the zone, low and away. Count now is full. 3 balls, 2 strikes with 1 out, runner at second. Bizzardo on the mound, Aaron Judge in the box. And I think they just walked Judge. There it is. It's a walk. Sorry, you didn't get your RBI. Sorry, Ty. And Judge with the walk. Now you got runners at first and second with 1 out. Next up, DHing Ben Rice. And Ben Rice 1 for 4 with a run and a K. 8-3 Yankees. Yeah, but the thing is they're not purposely walking Judge. It's just that our bullpen sucks. Like, our starting pitching sucks. Our bullpen sucks. So, it's like we got Brash, we got Gabe Spire, we got Munoz, but Munoz only will come in if we're obviously winning. So it's like we don't really have, a lot of consistent pitching, and the way that we were able to battle that is we were putting up 6 to 10 runs for like a month. And so even if we were giving up 5, we were still winning. But now, the bats have cooled off and the pitching has gotten progressively worse. Sometimes you end up hitting a wall and you're not going to be able to hit, and get 6 runs a game for months on end. At some point you're going to have games where you put up 1 to 3, and that's where we've kind of been stuck here in these last 4 games. But both of these teams will be in the playoffs. No doubt about that. Takes a strike looking. Behind in the count now 0-2 from Bizzardo to Rice. 0-2 pitch. Low and away with the slider, 83 miles an hour. 1 ball, 2 strikes, 1 out. Runners at first and second. Top of the 8th with 1 out with a Yankee 5-run lead, 8-3. But again, it's like, even though Aaron Judge, is balling out of control, you're not really going to see too many pitchers on opposing teams intentionally walk him. There's not really a lot of that goes on in baseball in 2025. Like back when Barry Bonds was on steroids and McGuire and Sosa, and you saw a lot of those guys get intentionally walked because they didn't want to give up that big home run. You don't really see that even with Shohei Ohtani and Aaron Judge. It's pretty rare. Like most pitchers, starters, or bullpen will go after them. And if they give up the homer, they give up the homer, but then at least it gives that guy a chance to up his stat line. And then if you end up getting him out, you can have the bragging rights. I struck out Aaron Judge, Top of the 8th, runners at first and second with now 2 outs. Next up is Paul Goldschmidt. Down goes Ben Rice. First pitch to Goldschmidt, tries to jam him inside with the sinker. 96 miles an hour, fouls it off, 0-1 count. And Goldschmidt's been money for the Yankees since he was starting to kind of hit a wall there in St. Louis with the Cardinals, and sometimes a change of scenery can really make a difference. Pitch fouled off, tries to jam him again, behind in the count now 0-2. I think that's debatable. I mean, there's a few teams that are, on the up and up. If you're looking, based on just like eye test and records, I think the teams that are playing really good ball, Yankees are good, Tigers are good, Mariners are good, Mets are good, Phillies are pretty good, Cubs are good, Cardinals are on a nice hot streak right now, but we'll see how long that lasts. Dodgers are great, Padres are great, Giants are great. So, I mean, I don't really know if we have like one team that you can say that is by far better than everyone else. It seems like the National League, has better teams than the American League, but, there's a few more teams, especially if you're looking at the Dodgers, the Padres, and the Giants, like those 3 teams, that division, and then even the Diamondbacks are above 500. They obviously have the worst team in baseball in that division with the Rockies, but there's no question that the NL West is the best division in baseball, with the Giants and the Padres and Dodgers just kicking ass and taking names. But obviously in the American League, Mariners, Yankees, Tigers, there's a few, that are balling, but I would say that the National League teams, some of those are probably playing a little bit better. So, but I like the surprise team. Like, no one is surprised that the Padres are good or the Yankees or Dodgers, but I think people are surprised that the Mariners are good. The Athletics are competitive. The Tigers are good. The Cubs are good. The Giants are good, and I like that. I like seeing teams that normally aren't, like, at the top, finally breaking out. And, when we started the season, we were like, 3-7, and we played the Tigers, who are first place, and the Giants, they may be sitting in third, but they're, if they were in any other division, they would be in first, right? And when you start off the season playing against 2 playoff teams, and it starts to go a little sideways, you have to wait for a few more games, to be able to see where you're at. And luckily we were able to rebound from that, and now we're 22-17. I mean, I don't like getting swept by the fucking Blue Jays and now getting our ass kicked here by the Yankees, but once we get George Kirby and Logan Gilbert back, it'll be a big difference. But again, remember, we're the number 1 injured team in baseball with the Braves. So for us and we haven't had our starting 2 best pitchers pretty much for a good chunk of the season. We haven't even had George Kirby at all in 2025. We only had Logan Gilbert for a chunk of, the beginning of the season, and he went hurt, right? And no Ryan Bliss, no Victor Robles, our starting right fielder, no Luke Raley. Dylan Moore was out for a little bit. Now, we do have the number 1 farm system in MLB, which is nice. So when we do have injuries, we can call up guys, and some of them have stuck. And, Ben Williamson will be our third baseman probably for the next 10 years. So, sometimes injuries are a blessing. Polo got hurt, was supposed to play third base. We called up Ben Williamson, moved Polo to DH, and Polo now batting, 350 to 450. And I know he probably wants to be an everyday player, but he's a liability if he plays second or third because he's got a noodle arm. Just let him DH. Just let him be the Edgar Martinez of the Mariners in 2025. And, we have plenty of other players that can play shortstop, second or third. So, but we'll see where it goes. I still feel pretty confident, with Seattle. I still think that we're going to win the division, and we just need to get our main guys healthy, Logan Gilbert and George Kirby, and once we get those guys back, it'll be a much better team, as well as Victor Robles, a couple months down the road. Yeah. Well, I mean, anytime you're the Yankees or the Dodgers, you're always spending like the top end money, but again, for like the Cubs and the Tigers and the Giants and the Mariners, the Athletics, maybe teams that don't spend as much and then they have success. It's cool to be able to see teams that, don't really spend a whole lot in payroll and they're overachieving and they're playing as a team. Not everyone's got the Dodger Yankee money, right? Next up is J.P. Crawford. Let's go, J.P. 0-2 count to JP and takes a strike swinging, and down goes JP Crawford, one away. Strike looking, strike swinging, and that's unfortunate. And next up, pinch hitting for Jorge Polanco is Mitch Garver. And obviously they're doing this because going from a righty to a lefty. We'd rather have Polo hit because obviously he hit the homer early on, but anytime you end up having in relief, you switch from a righty to a lefty. Even though Polo is a switch hitter and can hit from both sides, they're going to give Garver a chance to see if he can get some playing time, so that way later in the series that maybe he can have that confidence later on. Yeah, but there's no salary cap. It's not like with football and other sports. So pretty much if you have investors and you have money, right, again, you're going to be able to spend it. But if you have an owner that doesn't spend money and they're cheap, it's hard to be able to get the same type of talent than other teams. And again, the Yankees and Dodgers not only have all those World Series championships and that lucrative history, from being two of the most, dynamic teams ever, but again, they continue to, spend a shitload of money, more than a lot of the other teams. So again, if the Mariners had an owner like the Yankees and Dodgers, we would be right there with them, based on, talent, but again, it's like if you got an owner that is not willing to spend and one team gets Shohei Ohtani and then the Mariners get Donovan Solano, you can't expect the same type of results, from a team when one team is cheap and another team is willing to do whatever it takes to win. And they spend the big money, because again, these guys are not making $100 million. Some of these guys are making $400, $500 million. And, it's a little bit different compared to football or basketball or hockey. So. I mean, like I said, I've been, baseball is my thing. I've been following this for a long time. So, and I always look at all the payroll stats every single year. And, again, it really comes down to ownership. Now, if there was a salary cap, like with the NFL, then it's more like strategy, where you have to draft well. You have a certain amount of money, and then, it's a little bit more of an even playing field. Throw to first, and down goes Julio. But again, if baseball doesn't have a salary cap, and again, you have, millionaires on millionaires, and everyone's investing all this money, and the owner is pulling the trigger, then again, now if everyone had the same type of ownership than the Yankees and the Dodgers, then maybe the Yankees and Dodgers wouldn't be the Yankees and Dodgers. They would still be great, but then there would be other teams that would be right there with them, And obviously every year, there's going to be certain teams that spend a lot and others that have owners that are stingy and lazy that just want to profit. They don't care if the team makes the playoffs or win a World Series. They just want to profit. Sell beer, sell jerseys, sell merch. And then if the team overachieves, so be it. But again, if we had a better owner, things would be much better for Seattle. And luckily for us, we're overachieving. It's like we never really bring in big names free agent wise because the owner is cheap as hell and is stupid. So, we don't have a good GM or a good owner, But I'll tell you what, if we had Yankee money or Dodger money, we would have went to a couple World Series by now. And things would have been much different, especially with guys like, Alex Rodriguez and Ken Griffey Jr. and, Edgar Martinez, Randy Johnson, Ichiro. We would not be the only team in baseball that hasn't been to a World Series. If we actually had good ownership, we probably would have been to at least a couple by now. Not necessarily we would have won one yet, but you never know. Uh-oh. Go. Back. See ya! There we go, baby. That's what I'm talking about. Cal Raleigh with a big 2-run jack. That's what I'm talking about, baby. Nice job, Cal. Trident's up, baby. But better late than never. 13th homer of the season, and he's been overdue. Trident's up. There we go. What did I say earlier in the matchup? Let's get to 5. What's the score? 8-5. Way to bring that electricity, baby. Let's go. And it just makes you kind of cringe a little bit, if, we would have pulled Hancock at that right time. Maybe the game right now is 5-5 and we're tied and we actually have a good chance. But, that shows you if you have a coach or a manager that doesn't know what they're doing or they make a wrong decision, then again, because early, when it was 2-2, I don't know if anyone anticipated the score inflating to 8-5. But again, when even it looked bleak and when we were down, 8-2, we're creeping back, making it 8-3. And then all of a sudden now 2-run jack late, 8-5. So even though the game is, pretty much been over for a few innings, we're still fighting. And again, if this was a previous Mariner team, maybe we would have just ended at 8-2. So at least this team is fighting, and hopefully that'll carry over into tomorrow. SPL with a tour. Stacks on stacks, racks on racks. Little Cactus Jack, bang, bang. Nice win streak for the Cardinals. But again, you know what happens with that division. There's a lot of movement, right? And the Cubs are the best team, in the division this year, right? But again, when you can go on a win streak like that and go from being like 3rd or 4th in the division and now all the way up to 2nd, hopefully that'll be something that can continue for you guys. And obviously after, Goldschmidt left, and there was talks about getting rid of Arenado as well, it's just about finding a rhythm, and being able to get a win streak, any way that you can take it. And nice win streak for you. Let me know what you want to do photo-wise, and I got you. Alec with the tour. Appreciate you. Stacks on stacks, racks on racks with a little Cactus Jack, bang, bang. Let me know what you want to do for photos. So Alex, first dono to the channel. Appreciate you. And again, anyone that donates, any amount, $1 to, whatever. I mean, the biggest dono we've had on the channel was $1,300. So whether it be $1 or $1,300 on a single dono, I'll be able to throw up some photos of your favorite player or whatever your, favorite thing is at the time. And I can find like some HD 4K photos of, your favorite player, your favorite wrestler. Doesn't even have to be necessarily baseball related, your favorite artist, whatever it may be. Most of the time people will do, a photo based on the sport that we're doing on the stream, but it doesn't have to be. Next up is Randy Arozarena. Takes a strike looking on an 0-1 count from Williams. 0-1 pitch. Strike swinging with the changeup behind in the count now 0-2 to Randy Arozarena. But let me know what you guys want to do for photos. The two of you, I got you in play. And Randy Arozarena singles to center in the bottom of the 8th with 2 outs and the Mariners down by 3. Next up, first baseman Rowdy Tellez. Ryan in the building, what's good? Yeah, I mean, you have to understand baseball is different than any other sport, compared to hockey, basketball and football, since there's no salary cap. So, if you end up having people that have a lot of money, not every team has the same amount of, people that are investing in it. And again, so if you have a lot of people that are investing in it and then the owners are willing to spend the big money, not everyone has $500 million that they can pay for Shohei Ohtani, and again, if you already have Hall of Fame players and Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman, and then you add Ohtani to that, you're going to win. It's like, you have to spend a lot. It's just like in investing. You have to spend something to get something, and you have to make that investment. And not every team has that kind of money to be able to pay someone fucking $500 million over a period of time, But again, if you end up being the Dodgers and the Yankees, the expectation is World Series or bust. If you don't win the World Series, the season is a loss. But for every other team, they're just looking to win the division, make the playoffs, have a good year, have an above 500 record, and it's like the same thing with like the NFL when it was Belichick, Brady, and Gronk. If the Patriots were playing with those three, individuals, what was it? Every single year, it's Super Bowl or bust, and that's what made them great, right? The Jets and the Dolphins and the other teams did not have the same expectations as the Patriots. So with the Patriots, it's like, we got to win it all. And if we don't, this whole season is for nothing. And again, when you have that kind of mindset, it's different, and not every team is in that. Same thing with like the Chiefs lately, even though it seems like their run is starting to come to an end, because once they end up losing Mahomes or Travis Kelce, Andy Reid, Spags, defensive coordinator, or Chris Jones, and once they go from the big five to the big four or the big three, then you're going to start to see like the Broncos and Raiders and Chargers start to catch up, as well as like, teams that should be able to overtake the Chiefs, like the Bills and Josh Allen, if they can actually have a fucking defense, or maybe the Ravens with Lamar, if they can have a defense. So, not every team in every league is the perception is the same. When you end up having a storied franchise, yeah, that's one thing, but also it's about expectations, money, history, how many championships you've won in the past, and having that carried, over year in and year out. And the expectations, for the Yankees and Dodgers are completely different than any other team in baseball. No other team, is like World Series or bust. No other team, maybe the Astros, when they were in their run, were on that same level. But, Yankees and Dodgers, obviously there's a reason why they're the Yankees and the Dodgers. So, top of the ninth, Yankees 8-5. Taylor on the mound, Bellinger in the box. First pitch, high and away with a sweeper, 1-0 count from Taylor to Bellinger. But I'm glad we got to 5. That definitely will carry over till tomorrow. 1-0 pitch, fouls it off, outside. 1 ball and 1 strike from Taylor to Bellinger. 1-1 pitch. Pitch on the line, takes a strike looking, 1 ball and 2 strikes from Taylor to Bellinger. And Taylor probably needs to go back to AAA. 1-2 pitch. Pitch is low and at the knees with a sweeper. 2 balls, 2 strikes, no outs, and nobody on. Yankees up by 3. 8-5. In play with the 2-2 pitch. And Bellinger singles to right. Nice single there by Cody. Next up for the Yankees, shortstop Anthony Volpe. 1 for 2 with 2 walks. Top of the ninth, 8-5 lead for the Yankees. Runner at first with no outs. And we need a little slow dribbler right up the middle for a double play. First pitched, Volpe takes a strike looking, low and in the zone. 0-1 count. .240 average, 5 homers, and 22 ribbies for Anthony Volpe. Pitches low and away. 1 ball and 1 strike from Taylor to Volpe. Appreciate that, Ryan. And again, what I was telling you before, even with injuries or not, you guys are shooting way too many fucking threes. The reason that you guys are going to lose to the fucking Knicks is because your coach is an idiot. You guys are shooting way too many threes, right? You shot 60 fucking threes in game 1, and then the Yankees, there's Volpe. Back. See ya! Big homer by Volpe. Bellinger scores, 2-run jack, 10-5 Yankees. Not surprised there. Taylor, not good. And it shows you with baseball, there's 2 parts of the game. Starting pitching and then everything after that. So you could have a 5-0 lead with your starting pitching, but if your bullpen sucks, the other team can go off in those last 2 to 3 innings, 4 innings, and you're getting that here. Nice homer by Volpe. And not even really a home run hitter. But again, when you get a guy like Troy Taylor, who was a bullpen guy that was good last year late in the season, but as he was injured and then came back, and then they brought him up from AAA, and he hasn't been good all year. And again, sometimes when you end up forcing a guy to play maybe too soon, and they don't have the stuff, then you get fucking rocked. And nice homer there by Volpe. But again, like I was mentioning with the Celtics, Again, way too many threes. If you guys would have attacked the paint, first game they shot 63s, they only made 15. Second game they shot 43s, right? And they made only 10. You can't go 25 for 100 and think that you're going to win. And Wells flies out to right, one away. And then obviously if you're looking at, the third game, it was like 20 for 40. So obviously you won that game, but you can't expect, to shoot that many threes, even though you guys were a great 3-point shooting team during the regular season. If you play a team that's got good defense and then you guys are just lazy and you're not actually trying to slow the game down with free throws and attacking the paint and shooting jumpers, then this is the type of shit that happens, when you got a bad coach. And, he's the reason why that you guys are going to end up losing. And if anything, if we end up getting Knicks Pacers, that's going to benefit OKC if they get past the Nuggets and the T-Wolves, because they're going to win it all. Like, the only team in the East that could probably match up with the Thunder is the Celtics. But now if they get eliminated, the Knicks and the Pacers have no chance of winning the championship. Whoever ends up winning between the Nuggets, and the OKC Thunder, that's the team that more than likely will win it all. No disrespect to the T-Wolves. Anthony Edwards is a fucking G. They have a great team over there too, but, it kind of feels like, things are falling into place for OKC to win the whole thing if they can get past Denver, which I feel they will. Top of the ninth, 10-5 Yankees. Taylor on the mound, Cabrera in the box, fouls off that one, low and away. 1 ball, 2 strikes, 1 out. In the top of the ninth, 10-5 New York. Let me know what you want to see for photos, my guy. Got you. Appreciate you. Stacks on stacks, racks on racks. Little Cactus Jack, bang, bang. Nice photo of you and your son there in the profile pic. Appreciate you. Next up, for the Yankees, here with 1 out with a runner at first, Oswald Peraza, 1 for 4 with a K. First pitch, low and at the knees, takes a strike swinging on a 4-seam fastball, 95 miles an hour. 0-1 count. 0-1 pitch, and he gets hit. Golly. Troy Taylor, you got to get out of there, my guy. And this sucks for Mariner fans. Normally we're a top 3 pitching team, right? And our bullpen is kind of shaky, right? And we got a good closer, but then we strike out number 1 and we can't hit as a team. That was what the Mariners were working with for the last 5 years. This year, the pitching is not top 3. It's probably in the middle, maybe 15th, 16th, 17th. But then the hitting is top 3. So it's we're completely different than what we ever have been. But when the hitting starts to cool off, and if your pitching sucks, then you get stuck in games where you're only scoring 1 to 3 runs, or you end up getting lucky and you get to 5 like today, but then you look up the scoreboard, the other team's got fucking 10. So, hopefully it'll be a little bit better with Brian Wu on the mound tomorrow. Yeah, but even if the Warriors has Steph Curry, you're not beating fucking Anthony Edwards and the T-Wolves. Because again, the Warriors don't have Klay Thompson. Draymond is old. And again, it's if you're going to shoot a lot of threes like Boston, you'll find out what happens. Because at some point, Father Time is undefeated. And Grisham singles to left, Peraza to second, Cabrera to third, bases loaded. Troy Taylor needs to go down to AAA as well. He fucking sucks. Reflect with a 3-er. And again, a lot of the guys in our bullpen fucking suck. Stacks on stacks, racks on racks, little Cactus Jack, bang, bang. Appreciate you. $3 holla. Let me know what you want to do for photos. And I got you and Ryan. Next up for Aaron Judge, you will be able to get your RBI or possibly a grand salami here with Aaron. But Troy Taylor is so all over the place, he'll probably end up walking him. Unless Judge will, kind of go out of his way and swing out of something out of the zone just to try to get an RBI. First pitch, sweeper, out of the zone. And again, that's the problem with bullpen guys as well as starters, where they throw just heat. Bryce Miller, heat. Troy Taylor, heat. Brian Wu, heat. And they don't have location. So when you're just throwing straight gas and you're trying to throw through the hitter, but you can't even hit the strike zone, then all of a sudden you're walking guys, you're hitting guys, you can't even hit the strike zone. It's a nightmare. You know, and it's like it almost makes you want to have more guys like Logan Gilbert and George Kirby, where they're going to be more about location. You're not trying to throw 102 miles an hour every single pitch, even though a lot of those guys can't. You know, they're throwing 95 to 100, but they can't hit the fucking strike zone. You know, but at least with George Kirby, you know, he's like a Greg Maddux. He'll throw a little bit slower, 85 to 95, but he'll hit the strike zone, and no one can hit him. Placement pitcher, right? And then Logan Gilbert isn't as good as George Kirby for placement, but he does everything really well. You know, top end speed, location. You know, he doesn't do anything maybe really super elite, but every single thing he does is really, really good as far as consistency. Judge pops up into right field to Leody Taveras, and throw home, and throw is off. And that's another run scored as you have a Yankee player down. I don't know what happened there, if he stretched his arm kind of funny there trying to grab home plate. And now he's injured at home plate. He's wiggling. 11-5 Yankees. Hopefully he's okay. $47. We're getting close. Megan with a 50. Appreciate you. Stacks on stacks. Racks on racks. Little Cactus Jack. Bang, bang. Let me know what I can do for photos. And I'll stay a few minutes after the stream or the game ends if I need to grab a few more photos for the people that have donated. I appreciate y'all. But hopefully the Yankees are okay here. You know, obviously kind of an awkward slide into home. And then since the throw was off to Cal Raleigh, he kind of had to stretch back to put his hands over home plate. And I think he might have, I don't know if he dislocated his shoulder or whatnot, but it doesn't look good here. Reflect with a 3-er. Stacks on stacks, racks on racks with a little Cactus Jack, bang, bang. And they're bringing out the stretcher. You already know it's bad now when the stretcher comes out. I think it was Oswaldo Cabrera, but I may be mistaken here. It's either Oswaldo Cabrera or Oswald Peraza, but it isn't one of the top-end guys. It's not Judge or Goldschmidt or Bellinger or Volpe. It's one of the guys at the end of the order. Left leg is injured. He's hurt bad, too. You got, training staff hugging him and whatnot. He's got his one hand hugging the other guy, and, yeah, I don't know if he broke his leg or tore an ACL, but it definitely, his season might be over. I think it was Oswaldo Cabrera, this guy right here, the 8-hole hitter, the third baseman. He's actually a pretty good defender, had a pretty good play. And then you see Volpe and a lot of the others, they're bringing out the ambulance now. And that's pretty rare. You know, you don't really see ambulances on baseball fields that often. But he is barely moved. You got Judge kneeling next to him. You got Boone kneeling next to him. You got the training staff, 5 guys there. Rest of the Mariners and the Yankees looking over. I hope he's okay. Freak accident there. And it's not like he collided with Cal Raleigh at home and got hurt. It's like the ball at home to Cal was off. And when he was stretching for, home plate, as they're trying to score more runs here at the end, his body kind of twisted abnormally. And I thought it might have been more like his shoulder, maybe he twisted it, but kind of sounds like it might be lower body, like leg. Jordan in the building. What's good? Yeah, very bizarre play because when you watched it live, it didn't look like it was that serious. It just looked like he was trying to tag home plate while he was sliding in. But again, they haven't really shown multiple replays to see where maybe his leg broke or when his ACL tore. But initially when I saw it, I thought it was maybe he, popped his shoulder out or separated his shoulder trying to touch home awkwardly as he was sliding into home. But, I guess they'll talk about a little bit more of it. So I'll get some photos while we wait for the ambulance. So hopefully you'll be okay there. I don't wish injuries on anybody. I don't care if it's, the number one rival, Houston Astros, or a rival like the Yankees. I want everyone to be okay. But for the time being, we'll throw up some photos here for the people that donated. And obviously the Chargers got a new running back. Obviously they got Najee, like on a limited short end deal, but this could end up being possibly the guy that, ends up being the new Eckler, moving forward, and Omari and Hampton for the Chargers. And again, you needed more than just Ladd McConkey for Justin Herbert. So it's nice to see that they're adding more pieces. And again, at some point, the Chiefs are going to start to slow down, and the Chargers, Raiders, and Broncos are going to be much closer, to catch the Chiefs. And, normally defense wins games and defense wins championships. So I would assume that the Broncos kind of have the edge on being the first team to probably catch the Chiefs in the division, but I wouldn't count out the Raiders or the Chargers in the next few years on catching up themselves. But definitely excited to be able to watch the AFC West. It's going to be very exciting to see how that division kind of develops here. Top of the ninth, 11-5 Yankees, and obviously they have the ambulance out right now, just trying to load up the player that has a broken bone or a tear in his knee or leg or a broken bone. So still trying to clean all that up. So we'll get some photos here while we're waiting. Appreciate you. Thank you for the support, Ryan. Anything that you want to be able to see, Reflect, or Megan, let me know. Yeah, I think it's either a fracture or a tear. It's, because again, the player has not moved, and they have trainers hugging him, like trying to keep him in a still position. Then the cart, the back, they brought that out first, for the stretcher and the back brace, and then the ambulance came after that. So obviously, you probably will see an ambulance, in a baseball game, maybe like once a season. Like, you don't really see ambulances at all, and not just once a season for your favorite team. We're talking about like once a season for any team. Like, it's very rare to see an ambulance come out, but they got him on the stretcher on the backboard, and I hope he's okay. But everyone is looking with concern, and I hope he's all right. Captain, appreciate you helping out with the likes and the subs and the donos. Appreciate you. And obviously, it's not like the Mariners are going to come back in this game. 11-5, top of the ninth, runners on the corners with 2 outs. But early in the game, it was 2-2. And we had Emerson Hancock in the 5th inning with runners at second and third with no outs. And they needed to pull him. They didn't. Then they got an RBI, another RBI, and then it went 4-2, which I predicted, and then said that, hey, you're going to end up giving up a 3-run jack to some jabroni like Austin Wells, a guy that never hits really homers, and exactly that's what happened. And then we got down 7-2. We were able to get to 5, which was my goal, but I knew that this one was not going to be good after that bad decision by Dan Wilson by not pulling the pitcher when he needed to. You always pull a pitcher when it's the 5th inning and you have no outs with 2 runners on, either first and second or second and third. And if you don't, right, then you're going to give up an RBI here, an RBI there. And then if you still don't pull them at that point, after you should have pulled them when it was 2-2 and you didn't, and you don't pull them at 4-2, then you're just waiting for that big 3-run homer or grand salami, and then you're fucked. And that's exactly what happened. So, but hopefully he's okay, but his season is probably over for Oswaldo Cabrera. A lot of Yankee teammates there, pretty somber eyes there, shoulder shrugs, and they just closed the ambulance door. All right, ambulance is on the field, driving away now. Prayers up for Oswaldo Cabrera. Season is over. And he was safe at home, so at least he can have that, you know. Scored the 11th run, so it wasn't for nothing. But I hate to see guys get hurt like that. And it's been years since I've seen an ambulance come out on an MLB field. All right, finally, we're getting back into the action. First pitch fouled off from Taylor to Ben Rice. Runners on the corners at first and third with 2 outs. Top of the ninth, 11-5 Yankees. Oswaldo Cabrera with either a broken leg or an ACL tear or maybe both. And taken off on a stretcher, backboard, and an ambulance. Prayers up for him. Oh, 1 pitch, fouled off with the sweeper. Behind in the count now, 0-2 from Taylor to Ben Rice. I got you. Same thing with you, Alec, if you're still in the room, if there's something that you want to see and they get out of the inning, even though Trey Taylor probably needs to go back to AAA, he is not ready. Let me get that Mason win here really quick for you. And then I got plenty of photos that I can get for Megan before we go. Nice 9-game winning streak for the Cardinals. You know, Cubs still best team. You know, they're in the Central, but Cardinals making a run for the top of the division. So shout out to your Cardinals, man. And again, at the beginning of the year, it looked, kind of the Cardinals play in waves. Like sometimes they look really good, and then other times they look really, really bad. But when they get on, obviously getting 9 games in a row, that's tough for any team to do. Even like a team like the Dodgers, or the Yankees. But hopefully that will continue to keep progressing for you guys there. So injured player that got taken off on the ambulance, I believe, was Oswaldo Cabrera, third baseman. See if I can squeeze in a few more photos here. Next up is Leody Taveras. 0 for 2 with a K for Leody Taveras. Batting second baseman would be Dylan Moore, unless they have Leo Rivas pinch hit at this point. And then J.P. Crawford. Hamilton on the mound, Taveras in the box. First pitch, sinker, high and away. 1-0 count from Hamilton to Leody Taveras, coming over from the Rangers, and it's been pretty successful for him, since he's played minimal games for us so far, but he's a good fit in right field. He's already made some game-winning plays for us. Takes a strike looking in the zone. 1 ball and 1 strike from Hamilton to Leody Taveras. 1-1 pitch, slider, low and away. 2 balls and 1 strike from Hamilton to Leody Taveras. 2-1 pitch, big swing and a miss. 2 balls and 2 strikes to Taveras. Come on, Leody. Bottom of the 9th, 11-5 Yankees. And I knew that we were going to already drop this game after that decision wasn't made by Dan Wilson, but I am proud of this team to get to 5. They could have just rolled over and got nothing. And Taveras lines out to center, 1 away. But, when you're at 2, and they're, it's at 7-2 when the game was 2-2, and you knew that they had a good chance to get to 8, 9, 10, or 11. They did, but, at least the Mariners were able to tack on 3 more. And again, that's a lot better than putting up 1 to 3 runs like we did against the Blue Jays, losing 6-3, 6-3, and 9-1. So again, hopefully, we'll be better tomorrow with Brian Wu on the mound, and I believe we will be. And then we got Luis Castillo La Piedra on the mound, on the bump, on Wednesday for the rubber match. Next up is Miles Mastrobuoni pinch hitting. First pitch to Mastrobuoni right down the pipe with a foul ball. Sinker, 94 miles an hour. 0-1 count. Bottom of the 9th, 1 out, nobody on, 11-5 Yankee lead. 0-1 pitch, fouled off again. Behind in the count now, 0-2 to Miles Mastrobuoni, who's pinch hitting here late in the matchup. Where's Leo Rivas, man? Guy gets no respect. 0-2 pitch, fouled off again, high and away. Count remains still 0-2 with 1 out in the bottom of the 9th. No problem. Mariners only need 6 runs to tie, 7 to win. And I'll get photos for Reflect and for Megan, even if we have to stay a little bit later here. And 2 away. Down goes Mastrobuoni, and here we go. One of my favorite players that never fucking plays. Now, me and Reflect love this guy. I just wish that he would actually get a chance to play. Leo Rivas. Guy's a stud. Good baseball IQ, good hitter, good defender. He can bunt. Once he gets on first base, he can steal bags. He's got good speed. First pitch, takes a strike looking with a sinker. Low and away, 0-1 count. But, Dylan Moore was hot early in the season, but another thing that Dan Wilson kind of dropped the ball on. They should have switched Rivas for Dylan. And again, it didn't have to be like, Dylan Moore never plays, but at least you could have them trade off. He's batting .341. No homers and 3 ribbies. Like, how the hell do you got a guy on the bench that's like your 6th man, but you treat him like he's like the 12th guy on the bench? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, but again, there's some things that Dan Wilson does that, have been pretty good for our team, but also decision-making, with guys in the pen, substitutions, situational baseball, as well as not playing Leo Rivas, not good. You gotta put your best players, in there. And Dylan Moore, has good stats, but the thing is both of them should be playing every day. And for you to just decide that Leo can only play second and that's it, is a little ridiculous. 2 balls and 2 strikes from Hamilton to Rivas. Yeah, but you got to think, fucking A, Rivas hasn't played in like how many games? And then we had him come in as like a pinch runner late in the game, but that's like so disrespectful for a player that's this good. Pitch fouled off with the 4-seam fastball. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs. 11-5 lead for the Yankees. Brian Wu on the mound tomorrow, so I feel confident about that. We'll be live tomorrow, 6:30 Pacific, and then on Wednesday at 1:10 Pacific. We'll do all of those games, and I think if we win tomorrow with Wu, pitches outside, count now is full, 3 balls and 2 strikes. If we win tomorrow with Wu, we will have a good chance to win on Wednesday. But obviously, if we lose tomorrow with Wu, we might end up getting swept. And the last thing that you want to see as a Mariner fan, get swept 2 series in a row, 3 to the Blue Jays and then 3 to the Yankees. And down goes Rivas. But again, Rivas struck out, and he normally doesn't. But again, he hasn't played in a billion games, so it is what it is. Final score: Yankees 11, Mariners 5. The game was tied 2-2 before Dan Wilson, made the bugaboo error by not pulling Emerson Hancock in the 5th with runners at 2nd and 3rd and no outs. But I hope someone will point that out to him, that anytime you have a pitcher and it's the 5th inning, regardless if they're doing good or not, regardless if they're a all-star or a scrub, if you have anybody that's on 1st and 2nd or 2nd and 3rd with no outs, you pull them. And if you don't, then this is what happens. Any photos that I can get for you, Reflect and Megan? I'm going to just start going through Megan's like regulars here. Anything specific that you want, Megan? And then Reflect, I can get you a few photos as well. But I'll just go through some of the favorites for both of y'all. Tough one for Mariner fans, but again, not many games I feel that have been lost by the manager this year in 2025, but this was definitely one of them. Yankees are a damn good team, and plus we were already coming off 3 straight losses to the Blue Jays, so not ideal, but, it is what it is. I got to delete some photos, make some room for some more. Give me a sec here. Sure. I mean, I figured I'd go down the Seahawk, kind of dive there. We haven't seen some of those in a minute, so. But congratulations to the Yankees and all the Yankee fans. I'm always up for the challenge. I know most Mariner fans dread, playing the Yankees or Dodgers, but I always like to see how we match up against, those teams, that, are most of the time the top tier teams in their divisions. And, it kind of shows you where you're at the moment. And, sometimes you're going to end up winning, and other times you're going to, get blasted. And you, have to be able to adjust, pivot, make, adjustments. And hopefully, Dan Wilson will do that, moving forward. But all right, man. Thank you for supporting my guy. Appreciate you. I got you. Exactly. You and me are always following the stats, and again, player of the week and home runs, batting average. But again, you have to be able to evaluate players in the moment. You can't hang on to shit that they did in April, and in March. You have to look at what have they been doing lately. It's a what have you done for me lately type of league. And again, if you start, kind of falling in love with the accomplishments of what they did last month, instead of looking at what you have in front of you, on the bench that could help you win, that's the difference between having a good manager or a good coach or one that doesn't understand, and is like kind of playing favorites and whatnot. But I definitely feel that if we played Leo more, that maybe we wouldn't have got swept by the Blue Jays if we started him over Demo, or at least let them alternate games, at the very least. But, I guess that's, some guys are, coaches for a reason, but that doesn't mean that they know what they're doing, right? All the time. Paisley's at the door. Give me a second. I'm going to take my pup for a walk, and I'll get into my Reflect file and my Megan file here real quick. But at least we got Brian Wu on the mound tomorrow, so that gives us the best chance to win against the Yankees tomorrow. And hopefully Wu, I don't expect him to throw a one-hitter like he did on my birthday, but at least, if he can give up 3 runs or less, that will give us a very good chance, hopefully, if the bats come alive. But we're probably going to have to score 5 to 10 runs, to win. And the bullpen has to be much better. Decisions have to be much better. And giving up 11 runs and 15 hits is unacceptable. But again, starting pitching hasn't been good. Bullpen hasn't been good. And the hitters have gotten kind of cold, since that Blue Jay series. So something's got to give. Anything else that you want to be able to see, Megan, before I go take Paisley on a walk and eat a late dinner here? And I heard that they are wrapping up with filming with Fallout Season 2, which is pretty cool. And supposedly, rumor is it might go 5 or 6 seasons, which is very exciting, if you're a fan of the series. I read that on my timeline, yesterday or the day before. Very cool. Well, I appreciate you guys very, very much. Obviously, I think that's probably where I saw that from as well. But I will be live tomorrow, same time, same place, 6:30 Pacific. So I can get a few more photos if you have time tomorrow to kind of get some of the ones that I wasn't able to get in. But I appreciate every single one of y'all that liked, sub, donated, commented, shared. Megan with a 10er, Reflect with a 20, Captain with a 5, STL with a 2, Alec with a 2. We need to get Alec a photo when he comes in tomorrow. Reflect with a 3, Megan with a 50, Reflect with a 3, Ryan with a 5er. Obviously, appreciate you guys very, very much for all the love and support. Wish that we didn't have an injury to Oswaldo Cabrera. Say a prayer for him. Hopefully he'll be okay. Not often that you see a guy get on a stretcher and go in a fucking ambulance. And I imagine it'll be all over the sports social media tomorrow. So prayers up to him. And again, I hate seeing guys get hurt, but I appreciate you guys very, very much for all the love and the support. Final score, Yankees 11, Seattle Mariners 5. I always look forward to this series every single year, one of my favorites, and hopefully the outcome will be a little bit better for at least Mariner fans tomorrow. And I got one question for you. Who talk sports like us? Your boy Ryan, Northwest Sports Fanatics, and I'm out. Gang. Go Mariners.